order the regular city council meeting of August 14th, 2023. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person meetings in council chambers. Public access to the meeting is also available by telephone by using the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda. Meetings are broadcast on Channel 8 for Comcast and Xfinity subscribers and on the city's YouTube channel online. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lukman Hiramasa,
Here.
Councilmember Long,
Here.
Councilmember Jaramillo,
Here.
Councilmember Kondo,
Here.
Councilmember Burns,
Here.
Councilmember Goff,
Here.
Councilmember Brown,
Here.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager Guyer, are there any responses to resident inquiry?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Randall Darling provide council with a brief summary of an incident that happened yesterday in the Safeway parking lot.
Good evening, council. Mayor, yesterday in the early afternoon, we had a conflict between the building structures of the Safeway and the next adjoining set of businesses. There was an altercation, a physical altercation that ensued between several homeless individuals in the area. One of our known residents was a victim of a stabbing. He was stabbed during that altercation multiple times in the back. He was transported to the hospital for treatment. All the parties were uncooperative in providing witness information, victim information, potential offender information. We're working with the crisis response unit because they have very good relationships with the individuals that were involved. And we're working to try to get them into the cooperation realm so that we can identify the individual that we think is responsible for the incident, for the stabbing. There were multiple puncture wounds. It looks like it was probably a small, I don't even know that it was a bladed weapon, but a small, sharp weapon that was able to use to puncture the victim's back multiple times. That altercation led to transport to the hospital, witness interviews, not a lot of cooperation from anyone, including the victim. We do believe that the individuals are known to each other, but we've got to establish enough information to identify the subject and then attempt to locate and arrest and charge. Are there any questions about that particular incident?
Councilmember Brown.
Yeah.
What's the condition?
He was in serious condition yesterday. This is not life-threatening type injuries,
Okay.
but he was in serious condition just from the loss of blood and from the immediate blunt trauma to on the stab wounds.
I am brain farting on when our conversation's gonna be about the shopping center, and how we want to proceed with safety there, whether it's through the police or what we do. Do we have anything on the, future agendas?
Councilmember Brown, no, we don't. A couple weeks ago, or maybe just last week, I forget, Allison Modine, our Economic Development Director, provided an update about the next steps in working with the consultant in terms of facilitating the property owners. If council movement with the property owners to get the upkeep and condition of the property, of the properties of the shopping center in better condition. So if council would like a conversation about Safeway Shopping Center specifically, that's something that I would need council direction on.
One of the reasons that I'm asking for some kind of discussion on it is that I watched the same man OD twice, and I knew that he had overdosed. I called, I think, on the first one, and on the second one, the responders were there. I didn't have Narcan in my purse in the first one, so I just did what I had to do, just called 911. So I watched a drug sale today of a rather large quantity. When I came off 120th down the back road from it, and then I can go all the way back where the employee had a gun pulled onto him to his head. So if we wait for the consultant, You know, we haven't even put, I don't believe the RFP's gone out for the consultant for Nura.
I don't believe so, but this would be a separate conversation. So while that work will capture data related to impact of crime and what we're seeing on that shopping center, it's not a safety-related specific conversation or exercise.
I would like to see council talk about it because nobody's shopping up there anymore. I went 2 weeks ago shopping on a Friday night, and it was the very first time that I felt afraid in the store. And that's because there were unhoused people just circling me in my cart 3 and 4 times. And I was the only one shopping there. So I don't want Safeway to lose its business, and I don't know what to do, you know? It's like, how do you solve the hardcore issues? But I don't think that we can just sit back and think that they're gonna solve themselves. So I would like a consensus on having a conversation about safety at Safeway Center,
Yeah.
if at all possible. Jay's shaking his head.
Councilmember Brown, I can give you a little bit of feedback on that.
Sure.
We did have a meeting with Safeway specifically, and other city leadership, to talk about the concerns that they had. They had put in place numerous different things, securing their bathrooms, utilization of private security, different strategies with that private security that I don't necessarily want to speak about out in
Yeah.
public, but things that were actually, they felt were being very effective and were helping to deter some of the concerns that you just basically stated. The store itself, they felt was progressing in those areas. There was definitely a will to work with the other ownerships within the shopping center to bring about additional security measures. They are utilizing private security themselves within the store and exterior to the property, but they would like to work with other entities as well. But there were several safety measures put in. We've also increased patrols in and around the area. And we'll continue to do that to try to, continue to stay on top of what primarily is a homelessness issue
Right.
in and around the area. But a lot of the measures we talked about with Safeway specifically, they've put many of the measures you're talking about in place, and they're pretty happy with the outcome and the circumstances around the stuff they've put in place. Of course, we can do more.
Right, well, we always
Yeah.
can, but I do have a concern on that area behind ARC, because I did, my background, I can pretty much spot a user a mile away, okay? And I may not be able to tell you what they're using, but I can spot them a mile away, I usually tell you. There were 3 kids in between the trailer that they put everything in every night and the wall, and they were obviously smoking crack or fentanyl. Heroin users might smoke, but they always progress. So, I mean, it's bigger than just the Safeway side. I mean, we lost
For
Potty,
sure.
Potty City. We lost Party City. And I'm really uneasy, even with the added measures. I know they have security guards in there, but unfortunately, from my experience, he was going on break right when I came in. So my experience may be, the outsider of the situation. But I've been going there for years. And for me, honestly, 2 weeks ago, Friday was the first time that I was afraid in the store. I only grabbed half my stuff and got out because it was just a mess. And I know that they can't keep the unhoused from going into the store because they might be buying something, we might have money, but it's that entire area. Like the drug deal that went down today, that was on the other side of the auto parts store. So I don't know if it warrants a conversation, maybe just bring it back and update us more often, not just when it's awful.
Sure. And not just when we have an incident.
It might help me. I know that Jay's parents are very hesitant to go there too. And Jay is, can I speak for you? Do you mind?
I think he has his hand up. I think he can
Oh,
speak for himself.
You can take it for yourself.
Councilmember
Go ahead.
Jaramillo.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I do agree that we need to be progressive and be proactive instead of reactive in this situation especially. And I also know that there's some business owners who have surveillance there, and I know they'll cooperate
Yep.
to, so I've asked them to how they're dealing with the entire situation there. And, yeah, I'd say that's the number one issues, especially in my ward, in Ward 2. So, I want to make sure that, this is, it's been going on for a while. And I think that, it's not gonna get better by itself, it's, so, and I just want to see businesses stay in there. And people feeling safe and it being a safe place, so.
Right. And the unhoused are moving down Sylvia, down Truett. So I mean, that's, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're progressing, and I know we can't help everybody, but we also know that drug addiction is an outlier for addiction, right? So I don't know what the answer is. I was talking to a father today, and I don't know what the answer is. There's, if I could, it'd be over, but there's not anything that I can really do, but I thought maybe from a city standpoint, we could get on it, be progressive. And the thing I was gonna say about Jay that he left out was that he went there early one morning and was accosted by a homeless person asking for money. So it's an ongoing thing every day, all the time. And we just don't have the police coverage to make that a safe area. You know what I mean? We have coverage when they're not out on calls, but we also have that other problem of having more crime in North Point. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think it wraps into the Webster Lake conversation because they come between Petco and the empty store on the end, and then we've got it going on in Webster Lake. So I know that they're connected, but I don't know what the answer is, DC. And if you think just reporting, not just, but if you think reporting back, maybe like we do with the speeding, how many incidents we had up there, whether they were major or minor, because I can honestly tell you, and I'm gonna speak for you again, they're on our phones constantly about that shopping center, and it gets hard to keep saying the same thing. I'm aware of the issue. We're working on safety concerns up there. Be diligent. They'll walk you out to your car, even though they have unlocked the strollers, but they do walk you out to the car now. So, I mean, I do have a comment that I give, but I just, it's not enough.
Well, I
in
can
my
certainly
opinion.
report back on data if council would like me to bring some data to you, some comparison data over a couple of years. I can certainly do that.
That would be great for me, because I might feel, and probably Jay, we might feel it's more exaggerated or bigger than we think. I don't know. What do you think?
No, that's definitely there. It's there is a huge problem there, and I feel like we really have to turn to the police for the remedy. I don't think it's and even working with the business owners there. I know Safeway doesn't want to meet with elected officials, but everyone else, I would like to be included in that conversation and how we can create those solutions that we're looking for and doing it.
I know that's one of the solutions we were working on, was getting that next meeting together, so we
Okay.
can continue that process with the businesses. I'll be happy to report out on some data, just so you have some baseline information on where we're at.
Tell me, what is the data? What data would you share?
It would be crime data for the specific area, for the mall, for the shopping mall.
So like how many,
Incidents, what type of incidents, compared month to month versus the prior year, month to month.
so those are just reported incidents.
They are reported incidents. I couldn't possibly tell you the number of perceived
That's
incidents.
the concern I have. 'Cause
Yeah.
some of them are not perceived, they're literally just not called in,
Sure,
right?
Yep.
So people will call and go, I was just chased in my car,
correct.
and I don't feel safe going back in there. That's not a reported incident, so that's not gonna be included in the data.
It won't be. There's no way for us to tell you the number of times people felt or, were a victim of a crime but didn't call and report it. There's nothing I could do for that, but I can give you what data we do have, what crimes have been reported, the different severity of the crimes, the number of calls for unwanted parties, those type of things. So we can get at least somewhat of a gauge on, are we seeing significant increases? Are we seeing kind of static behavior? Are we seeing decreases? What are we seeing? as far as reported crime is concerned, and calls for service. Because calls for service don't always turn into reported crime, right? But calls for service are a decent indication of what's going on in the area. So what type of calls for service are we getting? Whether or not they're unwanted party calls or whether they're complaints of crime calls, all of those factors. That data I can bring.
So not to put you on the spot, but do you have calls for service data that were not responded to? Because that is something that I have heard from residents is I called and no one showed up. I called and no one addressed it. So
So
does
yes
that
and
come
no.
out? Does
So
that come out in your data?
yeah, it is in our data. So like if a call for service is called in, we are going to respond to it one way or another. Whether that's a phone call to the complainant, whether that's an arrival at the scene. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't go to the back burner because we have 4 other priority calls, and by the time we get there, the complainant's no longer there. That complainant feels like the police never responded, but of course we did. It just was after the complainant may have left the area, or, we weren't able to make contact with the complainant for whatever reason, and that turns into the assumption that the police did not respond. But our officers have a protocol, and they're to respond to every call for service. We're not just gonna be like, well, that's an hour old, we're not even gonna go over there. We will eventually go there when our cars are clear, and we will clear that call, based on the information we have at the time. Maybe we can't find a complainant, maybe we can find a complainant, maybe the complainant has left the area, whatever the circumstances are, or the unwanted party has left the area, and it'll get coded. So the officers will code that call. So we'll have a disposition for those calls as well. But it wouldn't be, a call where, we didn't respond. We did respond, it's just how long did it take us to get there and what was the outcome of it. So there'll be a disposition.
And I think data is always great. I think it's important, though, to know that to some residents, it feels like excuse-making.
Sure.
And so thinking about how we communicate that, right? Because I get that feedback a lot. It's, well, I don't care that that's what you've done. This still feels this way, and this still happens to me when I go. And so that's not gonna be an answer. It'll be data for the conversation, but
Right, yeah.
I'm with our Ward 2 council members. I think we need to dig deeper and have a study session or a brainstorming session or a bring all the brilliant minds together and see what we haven't tried session. But I think something has to be done, and we may need to be looking at more creative solutions. I'm not sure, but it's super hard. I had a hard time even talking to Safeway because that store is not in their top 10 concerned stores, but it's in our top 10. It's my top phone call.
Right.
It's a situation in our small city that needs a remedy, and I think it doesn't feel good to just tell people, well, Safeway's not concerned, because it's really not
For
a
sure, and
priority.
I don't wanna make you feel like that's what they said when we talked to them, because
Oh, I
that's
know
certainly
that.
not the
I
conversation
know.
we had.
No,
They're
no.
concerned.
They are.
It just isn't one of their highest priority stores, right? They have
Yeah.
higher crime areas than that store is
They have
particularly.
hundreds of stores.
Doesn't mean they're not trying to make efforts. They came to the table and gave us solutions and concepts, and they were engaging. So I don't want you to think that Safeway
know.
in general, their management was not cooperative with our conversation. They were.
The commitment Safeway, Maglai, LaFont with loss control prevention committed to us was seeing how these new efforts got underway and after 90 days. So revisit them and see from their perspective, are they working? From our perspective, are they working? I would like to have a community conversation, and I would like Safeway involved. They have declined my invitation to do that. So what I will do is, based on this discussion tonight, and I know there's a couple council members who haven't spoken, I'll follow up with Maglai. I'll again push to have a community conversation, because I think we're at that point where we need to have one, and Safeway needs to be present.
So I don't want to muddy the waters here, but I want to float another comment that was shared. So Metro Mayor's is meeting with Mayor Johnston about some of his ideas about the unhoused in Denver, and that's a significant problem. One of the things that was brought up in that conversation and future ones with residents is they go where the resources are, and this building is where the resources are. And so we know that we're seeing more around this, the perimeter of this building and on Festival Lawn and Park. And so that's a resident concern, right? They know they need resources, they know they need support, but they're gathering where the resources are. And it's really close to that whole shopping center.
The shopping center itself is a resource as well,
Yeah,
which is,
absolutely.
one of the reasons it has makeshift shelter because of its location and structure and infrastructure of the roads. It has makeshift shelters in that too. So some of those things are contributing factors that, maybe we can find some solutions to.
Wait, I just believe we need to do something.
We're
Council-
meeting internally on Friday to talk about what Mayor Johnson is doing in Denver and how that relates to North Glen and what are we seeing, because in conversations with Chief and Deputy Chief and Jessica Holtz, our crew program supervisor, we are seeing an increase. So we're gonna meet to strategize and figure out what we can do in response. And that meeting is scheduled for Friday.
So all suburbs are feeling that. It might be helpful for me to have data, to go back to those meetings at some.
Yeah, just let us know and we'll get you the information.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. So we had our Ward 3 meeting at EB Rains Park Thursday, and I also heard from residents with concerns and just people who said, I just don't shop there. So whatever we can come up with, how we want to approach it, something does need to be done. And, it's to the point where people say, well, kind of qualify, I know the people experiencing homelessness need help, but I want to be able to go shopping in my, so.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Deputy Chief, you answered one of the questions I had, which is keep going back to that septed and places that they can hide in front of the Arc. I know that that unused cart area is a place where I've heard they do things. So I'd really love, maybe that's part of that conversation that we have, and really take a look at that again, in bringing up that area and elevating it and making it less attractive, less of a resource. And then to add to that, I've said this before, but every North Glen Senior Organization meeting that I have, our seniors say the same thing, like, we live in a proverbial food desert, so, we don't have a lot of grocery stores, easy access to it, and they don't want to go into the Safeway because of those same issues. And now, of course, now they can't take their own carts to their cars, which is difficult for elderly, so they have to pull their car up. And they've said that Safeway staff has been great, and they've helped them get their groceries in. But my gosh, the fact that we are even at that point, it just really concerns me. So I just wanted to add that our elderly population, it's really important that we help resolve this as well for them, that they're just, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Brown?
I just want to make sure that when we're having this conversation, we are talking about the whole Washington Plaza. Because Safeway is super
Yes.
important,
Yeah.
but ARC is super important too, and they seem to have really taken, we know the back area is bad, but they've really taken over that spot between the trailer and the building. So I don't know.
There's a myriad of different things that we can try to work with them on to try to eliminate options and opportunities, septed type ideas, additional lighting. We'll continue to throw what resources we can into that area to include EB Rains and the park, and the building and shopping center, because they're all really so close in proximity that they lend to one another.
Right.
And when we squeeze the balloon over here at EB Rains and we push them into the
Right.
Safeway, and we squeeze the balloon at Safeway and we push them into Sylvia. And it's a process by which
Right.
we disrupt, right? We'll work within the statutes, within our ordinances, everything we can on the enforcement side. But we need to work with the Washington Plaza, the entire
Yeah.
division, to really get solid solutions to the circumstance. Because we're going to need the businesses to use private security as well to supplement what the officers can do on any given day.
I agree with you, and I think it's going to be a difficult decision.
So I was getting support for a possible follow-up with council. Does
Yes.
anyone want to speak to that or just say no? I feel like we got support for that, so I'm not sure, Heather, where that might fit. I know staff might need time. It would obviously not be next week, but thinking about the work that you're already doing internally.
I will try to see if I can make it happen in September, if we can get answers to these other pieces in particular from Safeway. And I do want to add to what Deputy Chief said, we're also seeing the shift to the Wagon Road Park and Ride. So I have been in communication with RTD and Mark Freitag, the city manager of Westminster, about making sure there's alignment in terms of their response to those issues, and if they're citing for trespass, like we cite for trespass and so forth, and there is. So there's good coordination happening, but it's significant and it requires continual attention.
Thank you. That was item number 4,
Oh,
response
I'm
to
sorry.
citizen inquiry. In case anyone was wondering where we were on the agenda. Thank you. Anything else?
No,
No.
that's enough for
Okay.
that one.
That's okay. All right. Any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? No? Okay. All right, we are going to move into an interview. We have a guest, Tara Porter, come on up. She is interviewing to be an alternate member position on the Planning Commission. You attended the Planning Commission meeting on August 1st, and the commission recommended Tara's appointment to fill the alternate member position. However, Tara also applied for a position on the Vail Board. The Vail Board is meeting this Wednesday and would like to consider Tara for one of their vacant positions as well. And you are eligible to serve on both boards. So I think we'd love to learn more about you. So if you just want to give us a quick intro and tell us why you're interested in serving in this way.
Yes. Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mayor. So my background being from business, going from business degree to owning businesses that include brick and mortars and manufacturing, and having dealt with city and local government in those capacities, as well as from a family perspective, having had one of those businesses be a family business. I'm just now, as a new community member of North Glen, am really excited to use those experiences and be a part of serving the community.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Tara? We have her resume in our packet. Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate your desire and drive to serve the community. And my question is, and I see on your response in the form that you were on the board for Arapahoe County,
Yes.
clerk for Arapahoe County. So you're probably very familiar with some of the challenges that we're facing in the Denver metro area. But I wonder, in your mind, from a planning perspective, what are some of the challenges you see here happening in the North Metro area?
From the perspective of North Glen being so very much developed already, it serves as an opportunity for evolution that requires extreme hard work and creativity, as we're not taking a clean slate, but we're taking what we have and supporting it through evolution, which when you're attempting to build something out of reclaimed materials, more often than not, it is much more time-consuming, expensive, and most definitely requires more heart and commitment to the overall project versus just the immediate outcome. So in that sense, I think overall that's a significant challenge, but also proves for opportunity to really get in there and work really hard to get some awesome changes and updates done.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councilmember Byrne?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hi, nice to meet you. Just a quick question. It looks like about half of the questions are unanswered. Is that a mistake on our end or on?
I believe it's the question form and how the Form Stack program translated it. So I believe that's on the city's end.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, that's weird. It doesn't seem like.
Are there any of those that you can't see that were potentially answered that you'd like for me to provide an answer now?
I think you just asked one.
Good ones.
I think this is a great one. How does city government affect your life?
Awesome. So having the background of knowing how deeply it can affect a passion if you are involved, not just as a community member, but as a business owner, in general, it's something that I think I'll always be passionate about, and that's really important. And moving forward, as everything from climate to the terms of what our demographics in society are and who shows up and who's involved in being here temporarily or for the long term, just really providing some dynamic solutions to some seriously dynamic challenges,
Thank you.
of course.
Councilmember Long?
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for stepping forward, first.
Thank you.
It's really great to see folks like yourself stepping forward to think, hey, how can I support my community? Your background's stellar, especially in your entrepreneurship and your business ownership and how you run things. My question comes into how you responded to some of your characteristics in terms of problem solving. And you mentioned communication, active listening, strategic planning, dynamic problem solving, and thinking outside of the box, which are topics near and dear to my heart. So if you'd be willing to share a little bit with us on those topics, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So in my current position, I'm not working my day-to-day for my own business. And I actually am deep in contracts all day long that are anywhere from 15 to 40 pages long. I actually really enjoy it. And I am taking this opportunity, this part of my life, to really hone in on communication that's specific to working through explaining and communicating terms and conditions, if you will, and then ultimately figuring out solutions and compromises for external and internal stakeholders being able to work together. Because obviously the people on the outside and the people on the inside, they always have their own best interests that are important to them. And so if we're going to continually improve on working together, it's one of the things that I really love about my job specifically right now is getting into the details and working through the communication to get both parties to a place where they feel like they are both benefiting and are able to move forward in the relationship.
Thank you. Very well said.
Of course. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Hi. Hi.
Thank you very much for coming. I really do appreciate it. Now, you've attended a planning commission meeting, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me what your understanding is of the planning commission?
So, what my grandiose idea of how a planning commission would work is to ultimately be representative of the community as a whole and enforcing code and ultimately what it is that the city of North Glen has determined to be what is most important to them. And as you're going through navigating the communication between external stakeholders that are coming to the table and are looking to prove that they can meet code expectation in order to engage in a type of business with the city or relationship, that is then the commission's job to do their due diligence in understanding what the expectations of the city are, knowing the nitty-gritty detail of the code, and then making sure that at the end of the day, not just the code has been bare minimally met, but that both parties, external and internal, are going to come to the table and do their very best to overall make the community better.
Perfect. I'm going to tell you that you're one of the first people that could answer that question for me, so you did really good.
Awesome, thank you.
For one meeting, heck yeah. You'll learn more as you go through. I also wanted to let you know, I love contracting also.
Awesome.
And I love math, but contracting is awesome. So I get that from you. Thank you very much for your time. And again, I appreciate you for applying.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. Hello again.
Hi.
I'll say that as well. I just wanted to say that your application was very impressive. Looks like you've done a lot of different kinds of work with local government, being involved in that. And so I'm very impressed that being so new to North Glen, that you just want to jump right in and help us out. So thank you.
Thank you. I actually, I promised my husband that I would take at least a year before I jumped in. And so I met that requirement. But being involved in both Jeffco County and Arapahoe County during COVID was, I felt like it was like a concentrated course in just everything that was happening at the time. And I feel like I'm very fortunate that I had that opportunity during that time and that I was able to physically go in during that time. And I learned so much. And so I really, as soon as I could get here and get a little settled in, I was really excited to hit the ground running. So I'm here.
Great.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hi, Tara, how are you doing?
I'm great.
It's
How are
great to
you?
see you again.
Good to see you.
In person this time.
Yes.
I just wanted to add that it was a pleasure speaking with you and the Vail Board. It was about a month ago. And your resume is impressive. I love a co-entrepreneur type personality, and the body care company and your brick and mortar store, I think, is all very impressive. And I think that you're going to bring a lot to the Planning Commission. The Vail Board will meet this Wednesday, so we'll talk about that. But I just wanted to thank you for stepping up and volunteering. I think that you will bring some really good perspectives to anything that you do in the city. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Brown?
Sorry. On the copy of the application that we got, it doesn't have your address.
Ronald Lane.
Where that?
Crow Reservoir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know every street in Ward 2,
Yep.
so I have to rely on my other council people for
Yep.
that.
Right on the
Okay.
corner.
Right on the corner?
Yes, ma'am.
And you've lived here a year?
Yes.
Welcome to the
Thank
city.
Thank you very much.
So I noticed on your application that you applied for all the boards we have, I think. So can you tell me specifically, I mean, I'm sure we'd have openings here, but specifically your passion for those two?
Absolutely. So when I was filling out the application, I had just also recently gotten a lot of flyers in the mail about how there were opportunities and volunteering, and I cast a wide net, hoping that regardless of what was available at the time, that we would find an appropriate fit. And I would rather say, hey, no, thank you. This is like I've overextended myself, which is usually my MO. That's pretty consistent for me. But definitely the Planning Commission, again, having to do with the code and being contract oriented, and that's very much what I'm seriously involved in right now, is diving into those details, would be really exciting for me, and I think a really great fit at this time, working on that communication on the daily as well as in the government. And then wherever there is opportunity, and if I do have time, I would like to be involved. So that's where I'm at. So at the time, again, because of the information that was there, I wasn't really clear what there really was clear opportunity for and how I could be most supportive. So that's why I was like, okay, well, if it's telling me I can potentially sign up for these two, then I'm going to do it.
Okay, thank you. So I did have a process question. I think, Joanna, this goes to you. So I see tonight she's interviewing for the Planning Commission seat, and then it says plus Vail Board. It's not typical that we would do the council interview before our meeting with the Vail Board. Is this something that we are proposing tonight?
Oh,
It was my understanding that she had interviewed with the
did.
Vail Board.
Okay, I just
So-
read, it says the Vail Board is meeting this Wednesday.
Yeah, so I unfortunately typed the notes for for you before I heard back from the Vail Board clerk. And I was confused because I didn't think that the Vail Board had a meeting, but then I was notified that they had interviewed the applicant. So there may be a little confusion between my understanding of when their meeting was held and the interview. But the board clerk, or it's a staff ex officio member, did say that they did interview the applicant,
Okay.
so.
I just wanted to clarify process.
Yeah.
Because I read the sentence and was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is backwards. Okay. Well, that's great. Sounds like you've met with everyone. And so I just also wanted council to know, because it's not on our agenda that way. So tonight, Tara is being considered for both a spot on the planning commission and the Vail board. So if everyone feels good about that, anybody else? I mean, I thank you for serving. I think that's amazing. Welcome to our city. Did you have something else?
Last
Councilmember
one,
Brown?
I promise. I'm going to ask you the same question about the Vail Board that I asked you about the Planning Commission. What is your understanding of what the Vail Board does?
So my understanding so far is to be able to make recommendations as far as funds to be dispersed in a grant way. After reviewing petition and recommendations for how those funds will be spent and making sure that the appropriate candidates at that time are receiving appropriate funds.
Nailed it. A little bit more, but you'll get that when you're there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you
Good
very
luck,
much.
and
Thank you all for your
serving.
time and your service. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Joanna, is anyone signed up to speak to council?
Yes, we have one individual, Tom Lampo, that signed up prior.
Welcome. Please state your name and address and provide your comments to council.
All right, Tom Lampo, 3951 Jackson Way. So I'm here to lift up our children and their education as school is beginning in prayer tonight. But first, Councilwoman Burns, I want to give you a scripture about the child growing in you. I also use it in tonight's prayer. It's Jeremiah 1:5. God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you." God knows the child inside of you, and your child knows God. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, in Jesus Christ's precious and holy name, we lift up the city of Northglen and its people to you. All creation for all time is yours. You've given us Northglen, and we want you here with us. The spiritual battle continues, but victory is already yours. You know our enemies' plans, and you've already accounted for all of them. Proverbs 16:4 states, "The Lord works out everything to its proper end, even the wicked for a day of disaster." You are a chess master. Any move our enemy makes, you will counter. There are no surprises to you. Tonight we want to lift up our kids and grandkids to you. Jeremiah 1:5 states, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I consecrated you." You know every one of these children. You knew them before their parents knew about them, and then you formed them. Make no mistake, they are yours. They are precious in your sight. Currently, we're preparing for another year of school. The teachers, the administration, the staff, the bus drivers, and all those that work behind the scenes have been preparing for this return of the students, our kids. Educating children is important to you. In Proverbs 22:6, it states, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it." It's an important charge to everyone that works with kids, responsibility that can't be taken lightly. Luke 12:48 states, "From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded, and from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked." Our educators have a great responsibility. They have been entrusted with much. They have our kids, which you knew and then formed. So we also lift up to you all those that will have contact with our kids. Give them the patience they need to lead developing minds. Give them great understanding into each child, the best way to teach them, the best way to nurture their learning. Touch their hearts and place them in the correct place. The job they are taking on is not easy. It's demanding, but you have trained each one of them for the job they are doing. Let them find hope, strength, and perseverance in you. Let them lean on Isaiah 40:31, which states, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." Hope, strength, and perseverance because they are educating our kids. In your precious and holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, guys, and have a nice night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who did not have a chance to sign up that would like to speak to council? Okay. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak to council? You may press star 6 to unmute at this time. Okay, hearing none, we will move into council communications. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Happy to be back. Since we last did communications, I was supposed to go to a lot of fun events and do fun things, and then I fell down the stairs. And wrecked my ankle. Very pregnant. Don't recommend doing that. So I'm so sorry to have missed the National Night Out. That is where I was heading when I fell down the stairs. I missed my Historical Society board meeting, so thank you so much, Sarah, for sending me notes and keeping me in the loop. And we will be talking about this at States later in the evening. And I believe there were some event center ideas that were tossed around. Thank you so much to Amanda for sending me updates for the Parks and Rec Board. They approved some noise ordinance, approved updates to their fee policy. We'll probably be seeing more changes coming down the pipeline as the playbook is implemented. And they also reviewed internally the budget, again, that will be presented. The one thing I did get to attend was the Dancing with Denver Stars virtually. And got to see Mayor Lady, which was awesome. And I also just wanted to let the public know this will probably be my last in-person meeting. I am heading out on maternity leave very soon. So we will see. But thank you to everyone who reached out on council to check on me. I really appreciate it. It's been a wild 2 weeks for me. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker?
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you to Tom Lampo for his refreshing words and his kind prayers. Second, thank you to the residents who did put on parties for National Night Out and allowing us to attend them with them. Third, I did get some numbers from Deputy Chief today about the safety-sensitive zones. And while I celebrate, and we celebrate passing that ordinance, I feel we are still at the 50-yard line with that. And while I could go off on a tangent on some of the numbers that I've seen and how I feel about them, I'm going to table that because we're only 2.5 months into this thing, and I'm hoping the process works. But I would like to make an ask. Since we do report on the number of minutes we spend in each zone, I would like to ask, if I need council consensus, to know exactly when that time is that we're spending in the zone. Because if we're clearly calculating the minutes, we do have a start and stop time, and I would request to see that in the report going forward.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So Councilmember Walker, are you wanting to know each officer how many minutes within each zone? Can you be more specific?
I'd like to know exactly what time of day they were spending in the zone. Because if they're, I think I had 218 minutes in my zone this month, so that means they clearly had a start time and a stop time, which was a start of the day.
So you want to know what time of day
If it was from
they're
11:02 to 12:15. I mean, clearly that's being calculated, so I'd just like to see that on the report.
I can check with staff and see if that's something we can report out on.
Okay, thank you so much.
I think it'll take some work, but we'll see what we can do.
Okay, thank you so much. That is it, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Brown?
Let's see, I attended both NER meetings, last week's and the week before. The week before is when they presented what the new signs, their vision for the new signs at the marketplace, and that we are gonna drop Northland from it. It's just gonna be the marketplace moving forward, but we'll still have that signature rock when you come in, when you come off the highway and it says, North Glen. So we'll still have that, but they've chosen to, make it the Marketplace, a rebranding of it. We voted on them and approved it. And, we did an early release of funds of, I believe it was $1.5 million to the owners of the Marketplace. And the reason that we approved an early release was because they have put so much money into improving that mall and into Prost and all of that. We felt that, we understood and were sympathetic to their cause. So we went ahead and did the, 1.5 million. We authorized, grant, I guess you would call it, for the business appreciation event. We sponsor that, we are sponsors every year. So this year, we've done it again. And we did for Scissorhand Color, we did a big grant. So that's just to get them going. It was for their signage over at the Marketplace. So we have Scissorhands Hair Studio, and we have Scissorhands Color. It's a separate studio. Brother owns the first one, sister owns the second. Very nice.
I love it.
It was a great meeting, and we get to go a whole month without having another one. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Jaramillo?
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended the Cleo Parker Robinson Dance Ensemble Gala this weekend. It was a wonderful night of performing arts, celebrating culture, bringing community together, and also celebrating stars in our community, such as our mayor, Meredith Leides. And it was very cool to even see people like from different, all different walks of life coming together and celebrating one of Denver's most influential ladies in the arts, and that's Cleo Parker Robinson. So, and I'm proud that North Glen Arts, when I say we, I mean North Glen Arts, we've brought Cleo here for many years now, so we'd like to continue that partnership. And yeah, it was a really awesome night. And I want to do a quick plug. So for North Glen Arts and Humanities Foundation, we're doing a fundraiser for the sculpture in the new City Hall. And we'd like to invite council, staff, members of the community to, they can make a donation. I've already made mine of $250, and proud to have my name there as someone who supports the art there. So hopefully we can have some more members on council that will also do the same to commemorate the public art that we're gonna have in our new City Hall that we've been putting so much work into. You could take it as a challenge or an invite, but I want to see everybody, have some, donate what you can, or pass it on to, the word on to somebody who you think would be interested in supporting the public art project. So,
Where do we donate?
North Glen Arts and Humanities Foundation. Michael, can you?
Something was.
There you go.
NorthGlenArts.org.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I feel like I'm going to be scatterbrained here because I have more than 3 bullet points. I usually try and say 3 things. First of all, I'd like to thank North Metro Fire for responding to the fire that occurred at 2 residences in Ward 4. And even though it was a fire for 2 families, I can't help but think about the many more people that lost homes and businesses in Lahaina and Maui. And I don't know if you had any touch points with that, but certainly it struck me. I spent time in Hawaii as a young naval officer, and we did a port call there. Lahaina was the old capital for the kingdom, and so there was quite a bit of old artifacts and things of that nature which will be permanently gone. So I would like to say thoughts and prayers publicly for those in the audience. We, both Dr. Goff and I attended on the 9th the Adams County Health Department meeting. It was a very informative meeting, I think. And one of the things that we received is this sheet, and I'm just going to read a few stats here, because I think it's really useful for us here on the days to think about it, and for the public, for that matter. Percentage of Northland's population that is between the ages of 5 and 19 is 20%, so that's 1/5. That's a lot of people. For the group of people that are over the age of 25, people without a high school diploma is 11% currently. Households below poverty level, total households are about 13.8 thousand. About 8% are below poverty. And also 8% of people are without health care insurance. So this is very useful information. If the days finds this useful, I will have copies put into your mail. But it certainly causes me to give some thought about, who are our residents and how do we best address some unmet needs that are out there. So very informative lunch. I think they're going to continue to have them on a periodic basis. So I would encourage all other council members to attend when able. Northglenn Nights, as Dr. Goff mentioned, was successful last Thursday. Eyeballing it, there was about 45 people in attendance. A few things that we did, and I'm more than happy to share this with our Ward 4 compatriots, is that we did a sign-up sheet, collected emails and things of that nature, so that was good. And, of course, took a lot of input from residents, so thank you, staff, all of you out there that supported pulling all of that together, so that was a successful event. The principals' meeting was on August 3rd. Madam Mayor, you were there, along with Dr. Goff and Councilmember Long. And I thought, once again, this was my second principals' meeting. It was very productive conversation, and you covered a lot of important topics. So thank you, Chief, Deputy Chief, and all the other staffers that were involved there at the police department to make that happen. Neighborhood Night Out, I missed you. I really, I thought that was a really interesting sort of experience. It was Dr. Goff, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Walker, and myself, and of course the mayor. But the chief was driving the van around, and it has this step thing that looks like a cheese grater, and it's like going in and out. It's kind of like a dine and dash sort of thing, and Madeline is like our, she's our timer. It's like, time to go, guys. And so we were jumping in and out of the van, and I just thought to myself, boy, you're at home after having your injury. It's like, maybe it's a good thing you didn't come out, because I thought the possibility of another person getting hurt would be pretty again, yet another great opportunity to meet residents, enjoy some great food, and be able to communicate and connect with people. So thank you again for making that happen. And that's not all I have.
That's not all you have? Or it
That's
is?
all I have.
Oh, sorry. I was like.
I can tell you about the Estes Park Wine Fest, but I'll tell you that later.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
That was this one.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to go back to August 1st, which was the National Night Out, and it was a wonderful experience to meet so many of our residents. But if we didn't make it to your National Night Out event in your neighborhood, I'm sorry. We did our best. It's wonderful that we have so many people who want to host it, that we really had trouble making it, all of them. And then on August 3rd was the breakfast with Adams 12 principals, administrators, and school resource officers. And that was especially wonderful for me because I got to see two people that I had worked with before I retired from Adams 12. And so that was really fun. Anyway, August 9th, the Adams County Health Department presentation, as Councilmember Kondo pointed out, they gave us some really interesting information, not only the data and how you can find that and more on their website, but also just a list of their resources. And it was a handout that we actually used at our neighborhood nights. And a lot of people were very interested in doing that, or in picking that up. I think that was helpful information. August 10th, the CC4CA Policy Committee met, and we're just kind of, gearing up for the upcoming legislative season. And on the neighborhood nights, we did have a lot of people, but we also had people who just kind of walked by and it goes to show how what a draw E.B. Rains Park is for Northglenn. Talked to a lot of people from outside of Northglenn who were walk it regularly or just came by and they heard the music. So I really, it is a gem in North Glen, and we really need to take good care of it. And some people who came to that, like I think I mentioned before, said that they don't shop at the Safeway, and they had some concerns about, safety and walking in the tunnels that go to the other side of I-25. And safety is a huge issue that we need to, really keep on top of and get creative about. And then on August 12th, again, the Dancing with the Denver Stars for the Cleo Parker Robinson Dance Company, and they will, which was wonderful, and the mayor was wonderful, very brave to be doing this. And they will be here in North Glen at Parson Theater with Inspiring Movement at the end of February. It's February 29th through March 1st, so I'm going to put in a plug for that and hope to see you there. That's it.
And you should.
Councilmember Long?
Yes, I have 3 items, Madam Mayor. Thank you. First off is to echo what Councilmember Condo said about the North Metro fire response in North Bend. It goes without saying, our first responders are so essential to everything we have in the way of safety and security in our community. Second item is the principal and staff breakfast that we had with the SROs. I want to get kudos to Chief May for allowing Officers Festi, Alari, and Toll to make their PowerPoint presentation, which was, to me, very, very informative, and really took me aback, to be quite honest with you, as I saw our 13 schools that we have in our area and how they divide things up, and the priorities that they have, not the least of which is this fentanyl epidemic. And what our teachers and our principals, administrators in these schools are having to put up with. And I think they came away knowing that they've got the support of the police department at their backs. And one of the things that really struck me was one of the officers said that we're a solo officer. We have a green light without hesitation. If there happens to be an incident, a shooter, we're going in. We're not going to wait. That's very impressive to me, that these folks are there, ready, willing, and able. I know we're having special training that we're going to observe and watch ourselves as council members, so I would encourage every council member to attend that if they can in their calendars. Third thing is, we could have had our own national night out in my neighborhood. I had several people visiting at my home, instructors in our training, but the neighbors came by, and folks that I hadn't ever seen before came by. And it was kind of heartwarming for me to have this quiet conversations, if you will, for lack of better words, to support things that are taking place in council in our city. So I want to thank everybody out there who came by and shared their thoughts and their support. It is sincerely appreciated, truly. And so I'll sneak one more thing in here. I spent a lot of this weekend and reviewing the budget to get my homework in place. So I just had a quick chat with Jason to this effect. So just want to let you know I'm doing my homework. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also have quite a few bullet points, so hopefully I'm not too discombobulated. But I will start off with saying my heart goes out to all of the victims of the fires in Lahaina. My husband is from Hawaii. He is from the Big Island. We don't have any friends or family on Maui at this point, but we do have friends of friends who are suffering greatly, and some that are probably unaccounted for. So I just want to throw that out there, that my heart is with you and all of the people of Hawaii. Moving on, I do have a couple of council requests. Well, actually, I have one request, and it kind of ties in with what we talked about earlier regarding EB Rains. It's come up a couple of times, the skate park. What would it take if we had to look at either, removing that or relocating that? And so I'm hoping to get council consensus to maybe have a conversation of what those options would look like down the road. It's not a now thing, but if all of the remedies that are put in place aren't, being effective, because we know there's a lot of people that don't feel comfortable, and it all centers around the park area. So what would that look like? It would be heartbreaking, I think, to remove it, but I think it's worth having that conversation, so we have a heads up, or future councils have a heads up as to what that would look like. To give staff permission to research that, yes? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Mayor? Okay, thank you. And then the second thing, I just want to mention that I've been hearing a lot of concerns about speeding on Melody. That was kind of hard for me to say. And I just wanted council to be informed that there are a group of residents that have initiated a no need for speed study. And the city manager, my understanding is that the city manager, Guyer, will be meeting with staff on this Wednesday to review the results and the next step in the process to schedule a meeting with the street captain. I know we've all been getting those emails. Councilmember Long and myself have reached out to one of the residents who's very vocal, but there are other residents who have come forward as well. That also ties in with something that Councilmember Walker has mentioned when I'm looking at the sensitive speed zone data. I too would like a little bit more information, because I do feel that it's possible that, our PD is probably rotating through those areas. And so when I'm looking at this data and the minutes spent and knowing the concerns on Melody, I just wish there were more minutes spent, but I understand that there are some staffing issues with that as well. So I'm just also curious if that data can be added to Councilmember Walker's request, and like how, do they rotate? And I don't think we should say publicly when they rotate in different areas, but if that's the case, I'm also hoping for more time on Melody, let's put it that way. Into my communications, I would like to start with a kudos to staff from the Rotary Club. I did a presentation beginning of August, and they wanted me to make sure staff knew that they were so grateful for all of the hard work that you all did on the 4th of July with the duck race and getting the ducks to and from the starting points. They said that they couldn't have pulled off that race without you all, so I thought it was important to relay that, and they made sure that I would say that. So thank you to all the staff on behalf of the Northland Thornton Rotary Club. I attended on July 26th, the BRE committee meeting, the Business Retention and Expansion Committee meeting. And the big discussion right now, of course, is the upcoming business appreciation event. So thank you to Nura for that donation, sponsorship. And very excited about that. You've seen some teasers. The People's Choice Award has, I believe, closed already, so those results will also be published soon, but the winners have been selected, and again, mum is the word, so I won't say anything about that. Attended the AdCog meeting in Bennett with several of you as well. That nobody mentioned that one. Never been to Bennett before, so really thought that I was heading to Kansas. I'm like, where am I? But the folks there, the city council and the staff, they were just so wonderful, and it was a really great event. So thank you to the city of Bennett for hosting the AdCog meeting. I attended the Hispanic Heritage Committee meeting, which Councilmember Jaramillo is also a member of. And still discussions going on for is it October 1st? October 1st, first of its kind Hispanic Heritage Fair that Adams County is hosting. So that's very exciting. Also attended National Night Out. Thank you to our police officers. Thank you, Chief, for putting up with us and driving us around in the van. It felt like being a school kid all over again with Madeline just like cracking the whip. Get out. It was awesome. And thank you to all of the folks who took the time to set up those National Night Out tents and food and talk with our police officers. It was pretty outstanding. Also attended the meeting with the principals and administrators. Special thank you to our SROs and all the hard work that they do to build and maintain those relationships with our students, and for their extreme concern, I speak for Northland and Adams County, to make sure that our kids are safe in school. I've had the opportunity, along with Councilmember Kondo, to do walk-alongs with our SROs and witness their lockdowns and whatnot, and they really do a fantastic job. Had a chance to talk with our district security, and they are also considering all of the options possible to keep our kids safe. So very, very grateful for that, and very grateful for having attended that meeting. Also attended the Dancing with the Stars event. Our mayor is multi-talented, you would not know, but a great fundraiser. So that was just really amazing to support that. And then last but not least, August 24th, which is next Thursday, we have the Ward 4 Neighborhood Nights at Danahay Park, starting at 5:30. So please stop by to speak with your Ward 4 council members and city staff, and also have some food trucks and music to enjoy after the fact. And that is all I have. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you. So I have a few things. I'm going to talk fast. As I've already mentioned, the Metro Mayor's Caucus has been meeting with Denver Mayor Mike Johnston in collaboration around his homeless initiatives. And so that's an ongoing conversation. Huge thank you to the PD for the principal meeting. I went from ours to the one that I attend, and we just were so welcoming and so inviting, and just did an absolutely amazing job. And I know that our administrators, that gives them a little bit of a boost to know that you have their back and that they are safe doing their job. And it's huge. And so I just want to thank you, because it's a big deal. Not every agency does that. And the fact that you took the time, I just really appreciate. I attended the CCPP board meeting, so those are up and running again, and they're starting to take off, which is really nice. They had a community presentation from Chris Miller, and that was great. And they're still grappling with what to do next, and but they're such a lovely, dedicated group of people, so that's nice. I also attended the Purple Moon graduation. They asked me to speak, which was so sweet. That, if you are unfamiliar with the Purple Moon, that is the sweetest daycare, preschool, all the way through organization. They love North Glen. They're celebrating their 5th anniversary this fall, and it was just really fun for me to get the opportunity to sort of wish those little new kindergartners well as they started their year. National Night Out has already been celebrated and mentioned, and it is one of my favorite things. I could not be happier that it's out in the neighborhoods again. I did have a wondering, and I don't know how council members felt. I was running late. I was not trying to avoid the van. However, I did wonder if we could make more progress if you weren't all in just one vehicle. So if there was a way to divide out with police staff so that Ward 1 people get to hit their Ward 1 parties first. And that was just a recommendation I had, as I knew, even with Madeline's tight timing, that no one was going to make them to all. But if council members had the opportunity to start with their wards first and then go out, but you were all in one vehicle. So that was just a thought I had. I had breakfast with the RTD directors. The Adams County mayors do that once a month, and we had a conversation. One of the things that I advocated for is that they have a conversation about the videos on the trains, because I found out through another source that the video footage doesn't last very long on the train. So it's longer, it's kept longer, the bus footage is. But if there's an incident on the train, sometimes it makes it really hard to respond to it because the video footage disappears so quickly. So I advocated for that because we have a train in our city. And then finally, yes, Dancing with the Denver Stars was the most scary thing I've ever done in my life, and it was so fun. The Cleo Parker Robinson Dance Company works in our community. They have arts and education programs that support our students, and they also perform at the Parsons Theater. But Cleo Parker Robinson, if you've never had the chance to meet her, she is just a gift to the world. She is just a lovely human being. And she has created an organization that strives to just add positivity and joy and love into the world. And it was an honor to be able to be one of their stars. I got a fancy trophy. I think it was more like a participation trophy, but it was very nice. And it was so fun, and we had council and some staff, and I just really appreciated the support, because that's 2 minutes and 15 seconds that'll just shake you. But I have to shout out Corey Boatner because he is the best dance teacher. He was so patient with me. He was my partner. Corey Hoffman. Corey Boatner. No, he's been dancing with the company for years, and he was so lovely. And so I have a greater appreciation now for the dancers, so I also would recommend that you come see their performance because they worked so hard. And it was a lovely thing, and it gave back to arts and education across the region. And that is all I have. City Clerk Small.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a really quick announcement / reminder for anyone who is interested in being a candidate for a position on City Council in the November 7th election this year. We have nomination petitions available in the City Clerk's office. Can come by and pick those up. They are due back to the clerk's office no later than Monday, August 28th. More information is available on the city's website or by stopping by the clerk's office. So feel free to give us a shout. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager Guyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Two updates for you and council this evening. The first is that Deputy Chief and I attended a Juvenile Assessment Center Summit hosted by DA Brian Mason, Chief Gordon of Thornton, and Superintendent Chris Godowski on Friday from 10 to 2 p.m. The purpose of this summit was to discuss how the entities in Adams County are going to move forward within the 17th Judicial District, given the closure of the link, which formerly provided that youth detention support. So it was a great, robust conversation, many steps ahead of us. Once this group is at a point where I can bring back information in a study session format or in a presentation format, I will get that scheduled. Right now, the group's looking at some type of hybrid model, but basically starting rebuilding, starting a jack from the ground up, looking to have the help of a national consultant who specializes in this work. And so that's exciting. And like I said, it was a very robust conversation, good collaboration, but more to come on that. Today, I attended a meeting hosted by Adams County and the Adams County Sheriff in regards to a detox center. Community Reach Center formerly provided detox services in Adams County, as well as North Glen was a user of those services. And this effort's going to take much longer than I expected. However, this week I will forward an email from Noelle Bernal, our county manager, who is providing the commissioners an update tomorrow about the effort. There will be a request for information that goes out this week in partnership with Signal Behavioral Health Network. They are a BHA is what they're referred to. So they specialize, and there's some funding components that are tied to this. But they are the experts that the county has partnered with to help figure out what this effort's going to look like. The request for information is going to be casting the net to see which service providers are interested in possibly providing detox services along with crisis intervention services that I believe would complement the work of CREW. Many details to figure out. This could be the time frame that was given today, at minimum 5 years in the making, which I'll continue to keep you updated. I also made a request to Noelle that once this project is at a point where I can bring a group in a study session format, presentation format to provide more information to City Council, I will do that. So 2 really important regional efforts that are underway that will require quite a bit of commitment by myself, Chief and Deputy Chief moving forward. That's all I have.
Councilmember Brown has a question.
Not really, I'm gonna make a statement.
Oh, okay.
When you start looking at this, Heather, and you know, it's it's what I enjoy, it's my passion, unfortunately. I just want to throw one part in there, is if we do a detox center without doing an inpatient or even outpatient facility like Community Reach did. Community Reach, the detox center was on, I think, 84th, and they come over here for outpatient. If we only have a detox facility, most of our addicts are on Medicaid. They're not going to be able to get into that next level until they start using, because they have to have their drug of choice in their blood when they walk into recovery. It's a requirement of Medicaid, unfortunately. So I just wanted to share that with you, that we make sure that, you know, a detox center is really super sweet, but detox centers maybe 3 to 5 days max, and then our addicts that are in there are not gonna have the next step to go to, because no one seems to be able to plan that next step. So that's all I wanted to say, is to make you aware of that, and if you could fix that along with the sun and the moon, that would be great.
Sure. So when I send this out, when I email this out, you'll see that specifically on the first page, there's a definition of how they framed what the detox component looks like, non-medical detox in a residential setting. So if there's something based on your knowledge of this work that is still missing, please relay that to me in an email, and I'll share that with Noel Bernal, the county manager.
Totally excited about it, 5 years is too long. But I get how slow the wheels move. Thank you, and thank you for taking that on.
You're welcome.
City Attorney Hoffman?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. Just one item. City clerk mentioned the election November 7th, and I did provide to you in draft form a form of the ballot question for the gender-silent proposed revision to the charter language. The city clerk and I spent some time looking at various versions and hope that that is a version that is both descriptive and clear in its meaning, so that the registered electors in North Glen can make an informed choice on the question. If you have any comments, certainly let me know, but otherwise it will be on the agenda for your consideration at the next council meeting on August 28th.
Thank you. Okay, the financial report is next. June 2023 update. Jason Loveland, our interim deputy city manager, will provide an update.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. As the mayor mentioned, we're halfway through the year on this report. This report in this format on a quarterly basis is really to take a look at how we're doing versus the budget, not so much year-over-year comparisons, but how we're shaping up versus the budget. So you have the same information as every other month, but it's behind this presentation that I'm going to go over today. So first, I'm going to start with overview of the sales and use tax. Year-to-date collections are at $11.7 million. That's an increase of 4.4% year over year. Within that number, sales tax specifically, as we carve that out, is up 4%. The two biggest areas showing positive momentum, auto use tax is up 7%, and then the food tax is up 8% through May. You'll see that dark blue, or maybe it's light blue, I guess, line is representative of 2023. So that's running across the top. You'll see the increase in March, and that's just the quarterly filings. Some folks file monthly, and you can see many also file quarterly. So positive news on that front with sales and use tax. One thing, we won't flip all the way through this packet, but on page 11, where we report the geographic areas, so North Glen specific business areas, that is flat through the year at this point. A couple of the areas that do have the marijuana businesses in them continue to be trending further behind than some of the other areas. But overall, not seeing growth in the geographic areas. Turning specifically to the marijuana tax, this is down 12.7%. 2023 is represented by the hashed line there. that you can see at the bottom. 2021 is the blue line kind of at the top that really had its peak in 2020 and 2021 in the yellow and blue lines, and you can see that those slowly declined throughout 2021, 22, and then again in 2023, kind of its lowest point over the past several years. Skipping ahead to the general fund to touch on a few things. Total revenues are at $15.5 million and expenditures of $15.9 million. You'll see on the far right column, we have a collection and spending rate. So this is just taking the year-to-date actuals versus what was budgeted. So on the revenue side, you'll see that we're at a collection rate of about 45%. Taxes are at 43%. So those tend to come in a little bit later in the year. Anything over 50% of a collection rate is a positive. That means that we're, collecting more revenues, through this part of the year than we had expected through the rest of the year. But overall, we just touched on the taxes piece. I'll point out user charges and fees, participation fees are up 3% year over year. So a lot of that is recreation center specific participation fees in that line item. But overall, nothing concerning or alarming on the revenue side when we compare the actuals to budget through June. On the expenditure side, again, this is if we're spending at a rate less than 50%, then we're on pace for the year. So total expenditures are at 44% of a spending rate through June. One line, capital outlay stands out. It's one-time expenditures that are very specific. So being at 67% spending rate just means that we're ordering things earlier in the year and making those payments. Not of a concern there. One thing that we've been keeping track of, and this was quite significant the past couple of years, and it continues to be a significant increase to our budget in supplies line item. How are we doing with gas and electricity and motor vehicle fuel? So gas and electricity in the general fund is up 10%, while motor vehicle fuel is up 15%. So just a couple of things that we're keeping track of. Overall, consumer inflation is up about 3%. 3.2, I think, is the more specific number through June nationally. So some of those inflation numbers that we had seen the past year or two have come back down to more normal inflationary numbers. Moving ahead to the Conservation Trust Fund, total revenues year-to-date of $291,476 and expenditures of $516,237. More details on each of those projects and Conservation Trust Fund are on page 19 of the monthly report. But I will say that the expenditures are made up of the sensory playground renovations at E.B. Raines Junior Memorial Park of $313,000. And then additionally, $184,000 has been spent on the J.C. Ballfield lighting. So in total, revenues are a little bit ahead of schedule, as you can see, at 61%. I'm going to expect that that's going to pick up even faster with the big lottery that was going on in the past month. None of us were winners, I guess. So we'll see you at next month's meeting. So skipping ahead to the water fund. Oh, wait, capital projects fund. There we go. Total revenues, just under $9.5 million and expenditures of $8.6 million. The other financing sources and uses, those are interest payments on our long-term obligations for the Justice Center and the Recreation Center. So we will hit that $4.1 million mark by the end of the year, in December when we make our final principal and interest payments. More detail is on page 21 of the expenditures, but of that $8.6 million, $5 million is connected with the road project on 120th, $1.7 million for the City Hall project, $700,000 for tennis courts. So those are the big contributors on the expenditure side as those projects continue. In the water fund, total revenues are at $5.7 million and expenditures of $7.3. You'll see that the collection rate on user charges and fees is just at 30%. Fairly typical that we wouldn't be quite at the 50% mark through June, just because of the watering season and that process there. I will say that consumption through June is down 16.6%. So while the rainfall has been great, revenue consumption is down. So we'll expect to not meet those charges targets as far as the budget because consumption is down. On the expenditure side, you'll see spending is less than 50% of a spend rate. The one line item that is above that of note, purchase services, is at 52%. A large reason is because we prepay some of our insurance premiums, so $240,000 in that line item, kind of being prepaid sends that line above 50% midway through the year. Let's see. In the capital outlay, we've spent $4 million on projects with more detail on page 22. $2.8 million on our waste handling project, and then $500,000 on the Huron Waterline project has been spent. Then on our wastewater funds, total revenues of $2.7 million with a collection rate of 42.8%. User charges are actually up 9% year over year. We had a rate increase, so we'd expect to see that number be higher. On the expenditure side, everything's falling in line. More detail on page 23 of some of the spending. There's an odor control project of $700,000 that makes up the majority of that capital outlay project. So big project going on out at the Section 36 property at our wastewater plant. The stormwater fund, just under $314,000 of revenue, expenditures of just under $160,000. Expenditures, those are general operations, salaries and benefits, and some minor supplies, and also includes $87,500 of ARPA spending towards stormwater projects associated with the Huron Street reconstruction, if you will. And then on the sanitation fund, revenues of $956,000 and expenditures of $952,000. Really nothing to report there. Revenues are consistent. The collection rate of 48% and expenditure rate of 49% are as we would have expected per the budget and the normalcy, if you will, of that fund. So summarizing, sales tax is up 4.3% across all funds and all categories. General fund revenue is just up 1.9% year over year, seeing some decreases in licensing and permits activity from the one-time development at Carl's Farm. And then some increases to show for with Recreation Center and then passport activity with that. And otherwise, projects appear to be on time and on budget, and overall operating expenditures in line with the budget. So I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Councilmember Brown?
Well, hi, Jason.
Hello.
First of all, I'd like to start out with saying that I am really cold in here today. I just wanted to get that out. When you're looking at the taxes, I found it kind of surprising that the marketplace is flat. But I'm wondering, the Diamond Shamrock that's called out, minus 30%, is that the one at Irma and 120th? Are you able to say? Because I'm thinking that is, in my mind, that's the only Diamond Shamrock that we have.
Yeah, and I think that we maybe mentioned that last time. And the
Yeah,
name
so
had
that's-
changed.
that's
This
the
is actually
greatest
112th and Huron.
Right,
Is the area
right.
that we're talking about.
We're talking about the one on 112th in Huron?
Yeah.
So the one,
Office Plaza.
okay, so the one up there off of 120th isn't affected that bad. I'm worried about the construction since you can't get in there to do business.
Yeah, that's actually East Lake, which is above that, which is up 11.6%.
Okay.
So, and we'd have to dig a little bit deeper to find out who the winner is on that, but totally understandable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of construction going on.
I just
over
worry
there.
about them, like I do everybody else. My next question, I don't know if it's for you, Jason, or it's for Heather, or if it's for Heather. Heather, I noticed that the sensory park equipment is over budget by $62,000. What was that accredited to?
I don't know off the top of my head, Jason.
Can you
do
just get
know?
back to us?
Yeah, we can
Sure,
follow up.
yeah.
Do you think it was doing the play pad twice?
It may have been, as you ask right now, off the top
Oh,
of my head.
yeah, I was just, that was
Yeah,
my
there were
assumption.
some
That's a reasonable-
challenges, so it,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
thank
it
you
has
for mentioning that,
now
yeah.
fixed, so,
Thank you. That's it for me, Madam Mayor.
okay. Any other questions for Jason tonight?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I missed you Wednesday.
Okay, the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
Please press seal. I'm going from Apple. Joanna, I'm a big fat yes, and hopefully before the next. I did it. There it is. Thank
Alrighty, so I'll close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Okay, we have quite a few resolutions tonight. Let's start with CR 17. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving a development agreement between the City of North Glen and North Glen Apartments LLC for the Alexa North Glen Major Site Plan Public Infrastructure Improvements.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right, our director.
Sorry.
Our Director of Planning and Development is here to provide a summary. Hi, Brooke.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'll be brief. Tonight is a development agreement to provide financial security for approximately $365,000 worth of public infrastructure associated with this project. This is located off of Community Center Drive in Huron. The amount of money, in addition to that, this money will be held for the duration of the project, and once the project is completed, it will go into a warranty period where we'll retain a percentage of that amount for a 2-year period and then do a final inspection at the end of that. Staff is recommending approval. The applicant is also, or the developer is also here to answer any questions.
Can you talk a little slower for what you're asking?
We're asking for approval of the ratification of the development agreement associated with the new multifamily housing project.
Can I ask?
Yes,
So,
Councilmember Goff.
I guess I'm just was a little confused because you're mentioning that it as Community Center Drive in Huron. So is there going to be access to this housing from Huron or?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just
So
giving you
general,
approximate
okay,
location.
all right, got it. I was just,
I was so confused when you said that. I also was like, where's the map? What are we
This is
talking
the
about?
old, this is the old school.
village,
Village.
Okay.
right, and fine.
Sorry. Any other questions for Brooke? Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 17 passes unanimously.
All right, CR 100. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving intergovernmental agreements with the counties of Adams and Weld for the purpose of participating in the November 7, 2023 coordinated election.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, City Clerk Joanna Small is here to provide a summary.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So agreements to conduct the November 7th city election have been prepared, and this is to conduct it as a coordinated mail ballot election. The city has participated in coordinated elections since 2005. Coordinated elections allow residents to vote one ballot that contains candidates for the mayor and city council positions, as well as school district candidates, as well as local ballot questions, county questions, state questions, all at once on one ballot. So we believe coordinated elections improve voter convenience, they increase voter participation, and they are more cost-effective to conduct than a separate standalone city election. So the agreements lay out each entity's duties. So the county clerk and recorder have their duties. The city clerk also has duties for the coordinated elections. Funding for the election is included in the 2023 budget. The actual cost of the election isn't determined until after the election because it's based on actual costs, the number of registered voters, and then the number of other entities that participate in the election. You'll notice that there is an estimate in the Adams County IGA, and that's $2 per voter. The city has been very fortunate that that has been a high estimate for the last couple of elections, and it's usually more in line with about $1 per voter. So right now, the city, at the end of June, the city had just under 25,000 registered voters in Adams County. We also have 7 registered voters up in Section 36, which is in Weld County, and that's why we also coordinate with Weld County. They are part of Ward 2 for election purposes. So let's see what I'm missing. We do anticipate some additional costs this year. There was a House bill that was approved in 2021 for multilingual ballot access for voters that will require both Adams and Weld County to provide a Spanish ballot. And that's just a Spanish sample ballot and then a Spanish in-person ballot for those voters who request that. So the city will provide a translated ballot, but both the city and the county expect those costs to be very minimal, not a significant increase at all. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the IGAs.
Thank you. Councilmember Condo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So would this also include the gender silent ballot question where we're going to update our charter? Is that also going to be under the scope of this?
If council decides to submit that to the voters.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you. So Joanna, I just wanted to ask, how do we decide who gets a Spanish ballot? Or is it just all in English and Spanish?
only the English ballot is mailed to voters. So voters have the option of going to a voter service and polling center and requesting a
Okay.
Spanish ballot in person.
So they would come to see the clerk's office here to ask for that?
Well, not here because we're not a voter service and polling center. We could print them a sample ballot. We could help them that way. But if they wanted to vote a ballot in Spanish, they would need to visit a voter service and polling center to actually vote a Spanish ballot.
And how would they figure out where those are?
Those, we'll have information on those. Those locations are always available on the county websites.
Okay.
We have links on the city websites to those locations. Yep. There is another program for all languages through the Secretary of State's office There's a language hotline that's available. So for any spoken language, folks can call the language hotline and have ballot information translated in any language. They cannot get a description or an explanation of the ballot, but they can have the ballot read to them in their spoken language.
Okay, great, that's good for people to know, thank you.
Okay, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 100 passes unanimously.
CR 106. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving addendum number 1 to the construction manager contract between the City of North Glen and J.R. Falank Construction Company Incorporated for guaranteed maximum price 1 for the aquifer storage and recovery site pilot project.
To approve.
Second.
All right, Kent Kisselman, our Director of Public Works, is here to provide a summary.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us. Yes, so we started this project a few years ago with the integrated water resource plan, stating that we need to store, we have an excess of water and where can we store it? So credit to Tammy and her team. Tammy's here tonight with Silas and the rest of her team for taking on these efforts to try to figure out how we can store the most water. So they started with this aquifer storage and recovery plan. They completed phase 1, which was kind of, is it feasible? Phase 2, more investigation, was it viable? Both of those came complete. And so we're here tonight to move forward with the project, pilot project, which is one well and the reconstruction of another. The total cost for this project is $4,594,502. That includes the 10% contingency. The mobilization would be set for September with an estimated completion or startup in April of 2024. And again, this goes behind the water plant where we're at now, between the water plant and Northwest Open Space. And staff recommends approval of the resolution as presented, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a curious question as to like, how much does that expand our ability to store water? Like how, I don't know, population-wise, or how is that figured with, I guess it'll, when all is said and done, 2 wells, right? One new one and one,
This is the pilot one, so then there'll be an expansion off of that for more wells, for more potential storage. We have water that's up at Berthoud Pass that, we aren't storing right now. We just kind of bring that down, and then there's nowhere for us to store it. Storage in Stanley Lake is divided up between the other cities, and so when that gets full, we fill our portion, and then we're not able to put in any more. So, in a season like this, we have the opportunity to store more water, but we can't because we don't have somewhere to put it. So this just, again, provides and protects us for our future. We've planned out, we have enough water rights, through the expansions that we're doing through Carl's Farm and the project Brooke mentioned, for our future. But this just gives us the ability in drought years to be that further protected. Because as you've seen, the previous 2 years, besides this one, we've been on drought restrictions and watering restrictions and those types of things. So, one thing that prevents us from doing is flushing our system. And so, it's been about 3 or 4 years since we've actually turned on the fire hydrants and flushed our water system. And that we need to do that for the health, but when we don't have the water supply to do that, then that goes undone, so.
thank you. I think that's extremely important for our residents to know and to understand that and how that protects us. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Brown?
I'm gonna just go off topic for just a half minute, because I don't know when I'll see Kent again. But the PTAs at both schools are very thankful to you. Heather kept me up to date with the opening of Irma and 120th, and they said to pass along their thank yous to your team. And I really do appreciate you getting that done. Everything was opened up Saturday morning, I think.
Yes,
So thank you very much.
thank you.
Have any comments on this item?
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm just going to move on. Okay. Thank you very much. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 106 passes unanimously.
Thank you. CR 107, Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving change order number 1 to the construction manager contract between the City of North Glen and J.R. Philont Construction Company Incorporated for the wastewater treatment plant odor mitigation project.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Kent, you're back. What do you got for this one?
Yes, so this is, has to do with our Headworks building, and most of you have been up there and visited that. So with our odor mitigation project that we've done this year, and that includes some biofilters, some oxygen injection, the ferric acid, those types of things to reduce the H2S, which is the gas that is produced by the sewer. Since we built the Headworks, and there's a typo, it's 2017, not 2012. So when the building was built in 2017, and this is if you remember being in the building or seeing it, there's step screens, the screens, that catch the material that go on around and around, and underneath those are 2 chambers. Well, those chambers are just being corroded with the H2S, and they're crumbling and failing. So we need to take time out, kind of emergency, and repair those. So we'll be bypassing the Headworks building and directly injecting the sewer into, or the sewage into the plant, and then getting this project, reconcreted, lined properly, and moving forward. The total cost of this project is $795,910. And staff recommends approval of the resolution as presented, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just for my understanding, technically, so is the acidic part of the hydrogen sulfide that attacks the concrete, is that kind of what that is?
Exactly.
And so the liner that they're going to put in hopefully will have a pretty good lifetime in that kind of chemical environment?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown?
I imagine we didn't budget for this, or did we in the 2023?
No, we budgeted for the odor mitigation, the $2.3 million project, and then in the efforts to do that, then we discovered this. So this is an additional cost.
It's perfect then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 107 passes unanimously.
CR 108, Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution accepting the sculpture known as American Steel Eagle and approving the placement of the sculpture.
So moved.
Good job.
Second.
All right, Michael Stricker, North Glen Arts and Humanities Foundation Director, will provide a summary. Hi, Michael.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for having me here tonight. The resolution before you tonight would allow for the acceptance and the placement of the sculpture American Steel Eagle by Vanny Channel. This piece was the 2022-23 Art on Parade People's Choice winner. As has been done for the past 23 years, the piece has been purchased by the NAHF and gifted to the city. Staff and the NHF recommend that it be placed at the entrance of the water treatment facility just south of 112th. On behalf of the foundation, we're very excited to continue to grow our sculpture collection through donations such as this, and are seeking council support in moving forward. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Councilmember Kondo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I had a resident ask me during North Glen Nights about some of the artwork and things like that, and I wonder if you can just explain for the public how that all is subsidized, or if you can thumbnail that. Under
The financial picture
Yeah, the
behind
whole
it? Yeah.
Northland Arts Humanities Foundation.
Absolutely, yeah. So the Northglenn Arts and Humanities Foundation has been around since 1990. It exclusively works to provide programming for the city. One of its main programs is Art on Parade, which it started in about 2021. So the majority of the funding comes from the SCFD, or Scientific and Cultural Facilities District, also from the Colorado Creative Industries. There's also some investment income that the foundation takes care of, fundraising, and some other sources, and a little bit of per capita. But all of that flows into the NAHF. The NAHF then runs the program with staff's help. And then when the piece is chosen, the NAHF purchases that sculpture and then gifts it to the city. So the city's collection of about 30 sculptures now, all of those were purchased by the foundation and then gifted to the city. And so it becomes a city asset.
So I'm glad you explained that. So no monies from the general fund are ever used in kind of doing this
There
sort
are
of
per
project?
capita funds that come from the city to the NAHF. I come in here every February, is usually about that time. And so a little bit of those funds do go into the purchase of all,
Okay.
even our commissioned works.
But the
But the
lion's
vast
share
majority is grant funds.
An AHF.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that.
Of course, you
That's
bet.
what I suspected. I wanted to make sure it was out there in the public domain.
You bet.
Councilmember Long?
Just have a quick question. How do you decide this is the location you want to put it at?
So the Northglenn Arts and Humanities Foundation works closely with staff, and we tour the city about once a year as a board of directors, and then go through several criteria. So it's, we make sure to, we're looking at the neighborhood, what are the needs, what's the aesthetic of the piece, where does it sort of fit, because each one sort of has a better spot, whether it's in an open space or, near a park or more of an urban area. So we go through a lot of criteria like that. We also look at durability, where can the piece last the longest? And then other times there's factors that come into play that aren't the same every time. Oh, I should mention pedestrian vehicle counts as well. So we want to make sure there's a lot of exposure. But like for this one specifically, what was interesting about this piece was it's not often that a sculpture comes online that would be great at the water treatment facility, to kind of help beautify the gate. And this is one that really just a lot of great energy around it. It's going to look great next to the sign. It's a tradesperson that is the artist who has an affinity with these other tradespersons within water treatment facilities. So there's all kinds of factors that we're looking at.
Yeah. My observation, share is, I've seen bald eagles there flying around that pond quite a bit. In fact, so I'm very curious as to
yes,
what might happen, but I don't. Not that it would, it's just a real, I think it's a really good location. And thanks for the explanation.
Thank you.
It is a beautiful piece. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it looks great. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We could get something in Ward 2, that'd be awesome.
I will
Think we're
close
the
that
only ward without
vote,
anything.
and CR 108
Yep.
passes unanimously.
You say something.
I said I would, yeah. I closed the vote, and CR
Thank you.
108 passes unanimously.
Distracted up here. I apologize.
Sorry.
CR 109. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution adopting the City of North Glen 2023 pay plan as amended and amending the City of North Glen 2023 personnel summary.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Tamara Dixon, our Director of Human Resources and Chief Diversity Officer, is here for a summary. Hello.
Hello, good evening, Mayor Lighty and Council. Thank you. Thank you for considering this resolution, which would approve changes to our 2023 pay plan and our personnel summary. These changes are to positions in our Public Works Department. Specifically, we are asking approval to downgrade 3 vacant positions in order to meet the needs of the Public Works Department. So I'd like to walk quickly through those three positions. We're asking to reallocate one civil engineer position to a new project manager position for the department. Also, the one heavy equipment operator position to a municipal services worker in our streets division. And lastly, one master electrician position to the maintenance technician 3 position. As the 3 positions that we are asking to downgrade to are in lower pay grades, that actually results in salary savings for the organization and no negative budget impact. Staff recommends approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Fondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So it sounds like we're still having a lot of challenges attracting and getting engineer candidates. I wonder if you can kind of put some more color on that?
I would say not only engineers, but other positions as well. The labor market, it just still has not recovered from what we've seen over the last 3 years. And yes, actually, throughout the Denver metro area, people are having trouble filling the engineer positions.
Thank you.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 109 passes unanimously.
CR 110. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution adopting employee guidelines for the city of North Glen, Colorado.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, Tamara Dixon is with us again for this item. Hello.
Here I am. Yes, this resolution is asking for 2 changes to our employee handbook, specifically amending one policy and adding a second. We'll start with the policy to amend, and that is our military leave policy. So in working with Hillary Graham from Corey's office, we identified that our current military leave policy is not in compliance with USERRA. USERRA is the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act. So the policy you see before you today was written by Hillary. And we really need to make sure that, obviously, our policy is in compliance with USERRA. Additionally, we are bringing forward a new policy recommendation, and that is a policy that outlines the use of leave without pay. This would be for employees who may wish to take time off work for personal obligations or for non-medical or medical leave once the employee has exhausted all of their general leave, all of their personal leave, and all of their paid family and caregiver leave. It's really important to note with the recommendation of this policy that no leave without policy would be recommended or approved unless the employee met certain factors which are outlined in the policy. Those factors would first be considered by the HR director and then moved on to the city manager for approval. So we do have some processes in place to make sure that the use of leave without pay is not inappropriately used, if you will. There are potential budget implications to the military leave policy. Now, depending on the time frame that an employee would need to use military leave, a department may request a part-time or a time-limited employee to backfill the duties of the employee who is on leave. With respect to the leave without pay policy, there would not be any budget implications. So staff is recommending approval, and I am happy to answer questions on these 2 policies.
Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So for the leave without pay policy, can you explain how that is different than FMLA?
Great question. Thank you, Councilwoman Burns. FMLA is for a period of 12 weeks. There are times when an employee's medical condition has not improved after 12 weeks. However, they've run out of general leave or paid family and caregiver leave, which runs concurrent with family medical leave. So the employee would still need to be out. This puts structure to that leave, which would be leave without pay.
Perfect. So you could technically go through FMLA if necessary.
Yes.
Okay, love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you. Hi, Tamara. So my question is, is this based on the fact that we've lost people because we couldn't offer this, you think? Or, I mean, I'm just wondering how much this might be needed.
So I would not say that we lost people because we did not have leave without pay in place. We want to make sure that it's a standard use across the organization. If someone did come forward and need leave without pay, we need to apply that standardized across the
So
organization.
being kind of proactive.
Yes.
Okay.
And I might want to add to that a little bit. So leave without pay is a common accommodation under the ADA.
Okay.
But the city's current policy didn't have any other mechanism other than if someone qualified under the ADA for using leave without pay as a benefit. And one of the risks to having a leave without pay policy that for those that aren't covered by the ADA is not having criteria, because then it could be applied in a way that could be seen as discriminatory. So this both allows for the policy and puts the criteria in place to assure that it's administered in a non-discriminatory manner.
Thank you.
Councilmember Condo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to applaud you and Corey for incorporating you, Sarah, as a former Navy reservist. I think providing protections for returning service members once they come back from downrange is really important. I'm just curious if you're able to share this information. How many reservists or Air National Guard employees do we have on the staff, if you can share that?
Well, I know I have one in my department.
Less than 5.
Less than 5 across the
Okay,
entire organization.
so not, it's a reasonable number, so, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I, once again, thank you for supporting the military.
Thank you.
All right, please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 110 passes unanimously.
CR 111. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution approving a professional services agreement between the City of North Glen and American Demolition Incorporated for the abatement and demolition of the former Recreation Center building.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Hi, Brooke. Tell us about this one.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. We're tonight taking consideration for awarding a contract in the amount of $1.178 million with a 25% contingency of $294,000 to American Demolition. This is for the old rec center. As you know, we've made a couple of attempts at this to get this building underway. We are excited about this. This is the next step in our phase. And per the conversation we had last week or 2 weeks ago regarding the remediation of the site, this is the thing that will be happening first in order for us to do that second step. I would also point out that we received 9 proposals. American Demolition was determined to be the most qualified proposal. And also just want to mention that it's outlined in the budget time implications that there is an entire process in which we'll be going through and coordinating with the state in order to execute all of this work. We plan to have this, I believe this is about a less than a 90-day work schedule for us to get this done. And happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Condo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, question, when you're building a building, it looks like the contingency is about 10%.
Correct.
So I'm just kind of curious, when you're tearing down something, it's a bigger percentage contingency. Can you explain that, please?
Sure. Part of the reason why we've added this extra contingency is because of the contamination that exists not only inside the building, but along the foundation wall. And so therefore, there's a lot of variability of as we go through this, there may be discovery of additional conditions that we did not identify through the Terracon report. So that's the reason for the extra added contingency.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown?
Hi, Brooke.
Hi.
Is this separate than what we talked about for the mitigation?
That's correct.
It is separate.
Yes.
Then I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
It's much lower than we thought it was gonna be.
So when we put this out to bid a year ago, the bids actually came in between $1.6 and $3.5 million. Part of that had to do with inflationary costs for fuel and diesel. The other thing is that we were able to further refine the scope of work, and one of the reasons that American Demolition was recommended as the lead contractor for award of this contract is that they believe that through coordination with the state that we may be able to actually explore possibilities of reducing the amount of abatement mitigation required and just do straight demo. So they were one of the few folks that actually pointed that out in their proposal in coordinating with the state to try to see if there's a possibility to do that. We won't know if that's viable or not, but they were at least thinking in the right frame of mind as to how to value engineer this moving forward.
I'm sorry, but you said when it would start, did you?
Yes. So we're looking right now that it'd start in mid-November and end in December.
Thank you.
And then we have some additional site grading work that would take place in January. So that's why I was giving the 90-day. It's also weather, it's going to be in winter. So
Right.
there's all those other variables that come into play.
So one of the variables I was wondering about is Noel Northland. Does that impact the parking?
It will not.
You know, we always like to bring up parking,
Right.
at least once a meeting.
We're actually
So,
coordinating with
check.
FCI on this as well because they're using part of the parking lot as well for their staging. So we'll be working closely with them on this, and they are plugged in the loop on this.
Thank you.
Yep.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 111 passes unanimously.
Thanks.
All right, CR 112. Joanna, will you read the title, please?
A resolution supporting the designation of Deza Estates on the National Register of Historic Places.
Move for.
Motion to approve.
Good job.
Second?
Good job.
I think that Councilmember Hiramosa should join me in the motion.
He seconded it.
I did second.
You did second?
Yeah, it's Catherine
Okay,
that
may
did
I
that.
make the motion?
It really
You
doesn't
did.
matter if it
It
makes you
doesn't
happy.
matter.
I
Go.
mean, you two have been jumping on things, so I thought I might have a chance to put my 2
Oh,
cents
my
in. Thank
Lord.
you.
Well, let's listen to the presentation first.
Well, I know what it's about, because we
Grace.
had a presentation at Ward 4. This is very near and dear to our hearts.
This is great.
Thank you.
This is great. Let's let the staff member present first. So Brooke, thank you.
Okay, this will be really quick because we did this in January, and as a result of having to reapply at the request of the state in requesting additional information, they're requesting another acknowledgement from the city council. So that's essentially what we're here to do tonight. There's nothing really new or different in the information we presented in January, other than that we've updated the application to reflect comments that we received earlier this year. So with that, I'll briefly go through this. We are looking to do the Deza Estates National Register nomination. This will be the first National Historic Landmark District in the city. Solicit a recommendation from council. We are going under criterion A and C, and there is a footnote as to what those are in your staff report. Essentially, what we're looking at is that this is what we know in the common day terms as mid-century modern architecture, which was a divergent of its time when these homes were built. There are approximately 29 properties. 20 are considered contributing, 9 are considered non-contributing. This is a visual of those properties. The one in green are contributing, the ones in pink are non-contributing. And so the highlights here is that we're celebrating the properties that are listed. The property owners are allowed to alter or demolish this house, and one of the things that always comes up with national nominations is that, does it take away the person's ability to demo their home? It does not. So that's the reason why we have this in here. Not that anybody that we know that we've participated in this process are eager to do that, but more importantly, just to understand that this does not take away a personal private property right in order for people. This also provides a financial opportunity to assist with renovations. There is a state and federal tax credit, as well as state grants that are available that will also help promulgate and potentially help maintain these properties. The next steps here are council and HBC provides recommendation on the nomination, which is what we're here to do tonight. History Colorado collects any letters of non-consent, and then the Colorado Historic Preservation Review Board approves the nomination, and then it goes on to the feds. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Long, would you like to comment?
No, I just fully support this endeavor.
Great.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Yeah, so I'm just curious, one of the non-contributing properties is marked as a local landmark. Can you explain, it seems like that would be contradictory.
You'd have to ask me which one that is, because I don't know off the top of my head.
1061.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Fox.
1061?
Yeah.
What- You have a note? Where? I don't know the exact answer. It'd probably take me a minute to figure that out, but what I can do is I can get a response back from Sarah on that and get you some information on that. But sometimes what happens is that the property is either in a deteriorated state where it's no longer, the condition of it is deteriorated to the point where it's no longer considered contributing, or it may have been altered in such a way, and typically this is the exterior, not the interior, it's been altered in such a way that it no longer is considered contributed, but at one point it may have been considered.
Okay, all right. I
I'm
mean, that makes
speculating,
sense.
I'm assuming that's probably where we're gonna end up on the answer to that, but that's, I don't know definitively, so,
Okay, thank you.
yep.
Councilmember Brigham.
Me?
Mhm.
Thank you. So basically what this does is make the corrections, to downplay it a little bit. From the first application, we took all their feedback and everything and then put it into this application, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councilmember Long said, it is near and dear to our heart. This is amazing. If, as a resident, if you haven't had a chance to drive by and check out these homes, please do. They are gorgeous. I have a question. Since the last Ward 4 meeting, we had some input from residents that were there and we had this presentation. Has there been further outreach or any more feedback? Is that a Sarah question?
Yeah, it'd be a Sarah question. I mean, at this
Okay.
point, what will happen is once this gets done, we will do another outreach to everybody, let everybody know what's going on.
Okay, I'm so excited for this. So thank you for all the work that you've put into this. And I love the pictures, especially with the family on that horse. Over, it's hard to believe that that was Northland.
Right.
So thank you.
So a few years ago, we did a home tour over there. Is that something, and that was really fun, is that something that might be brought back as a,
I'll have to check with the HBC. I think the foundation typically organized that, so
Okay.
I can check in with them and see where that's at. I know that it was relatively successful. I think it's just a matter of, if you do it too frequent, it loses its value.
that's true,
Yeah.
that's true. But that was a lovely, up-close experience with this
Really.
property, so it's great. Yeah, awesome. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 112 passes unanimously.
Thank you,
Thanks
Brooke.
a lot,
Have a
guys.
nice
Thank you,
night.
Brooke.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right, discussion item tonight, Police Department Fourth of July fireworks enforcement. Chief May, are you going to present tonight?
Mayor, Council, good evening. Actually, I gave Commander Justin Lauk, who is one of our newly promoted commanders, an opportunity to speak. So tonight, our other recently promoted commander, Commander Peter Rice, he's also the one that put together the operational plan for the 4th of July. So don't be shy, hit him with all the hard questions tonight. So
I got plenty.
We're really gonna give you the knuckle treatment.
Good
Oh, and
evening, Mayor.
congratulations.
Good evening, Council.
Thank you.
We'll talk briefly about plan that we've kind of had set in place, zero tolerance throughout the holiday weekend, enforcing our fireworks ordinance. And if you look at the numbers are pretty similar to last year, although decreased from the COVID years. Pretty strong decrease since then. I tried to delve into the numbers a little bit greater than what you had, but as you guys are aware, the ransomware attack on AdCom, the actual software that we would be able to look into see why some of the fireworks calls and how they were handled, that they were unable to do the data. They believe that was supposed to get fixed in the last couple of weeks, but I've been out of town, so I'm not sure if that's back up to speed. Just so that I'd be able to answer a little bit more as to, I guess, why, when you have zero tolerance, some of the numbers don't match up. And a lot of that could be how we clear the call, but we weren't able to pull the data on that just because the system was down because of that ransomware attack. And for those of you, which I'm assuming it was everybody, was we had some, Mother Nature threw us a pretty big wrench during the middle, the evening of the 4th, which kind of diverted some of our resources to include our neighboring agencies down in the Fox Run area. Thornton lost all of the power grid out there, so they pulled some resources that we were going to use, or they were going to use in conjunction with us. mainly at 112 in York right there to try to, and 104 in Fox Run. So when they pulled those resources, obviously, it kind of threw a monkey wrench into our resources, and we had to reallocate some stuff there, too. Questions?
I just want to clarify. So I'm looking at the data.
Mm-hmm.
So it says 98 fireworks-related calls and 12 summonses.
Correct.
But it's the AdCom thing that you don't know why there were only 12
Right,
written?
well, I can, what I can't tell you is the exact numbers of why, or on the specific ones. So for example, a lot of those, especially when you had, you have the delays in our response to them due to managing the other calls for service that take. By the time we get there, those fireworks that may have been called in were no longer going off, or we weren't able to find them. So that's a large majority of the data that's missing, right? As we would call it, gone on arrival or unable to locate. And I'm assuming that that's a vast majority of those, and I don't have the data because I can't give it to you. I can't pull it. But that's, as it gets further or later into the night, or when some of the delays due to the calls for service that we had and the serious nature of the calls for service that we had, some of those, our responses to some of those calls were hours long.
Yeah.
So by the time we get there, there's no one left out in the street, and so that leads to the discrepancies, and I can't tell you how many or why. Also, right, we're a landlocked city, as we all know, right, and we're surrounded, and how many of the calls for service are calling in our neighbors to the, to the east and to the west of us, and they're actually the ones that are, not trying to blame the other cities for all of that,
Yeah.
but
I hear
it
it.
certainly can contribute to it. I did try to pull the data as far as our neighboring agencies, as far as the summons that are, their enforcement, because I know in recent years it didn't compare to our level of enforcement, and they didn't respond back to giving us their data. So I can't tell you what Thornton Road or Westy Road, I can't tell you, I don't know their numbers. We
Okay.
did request it, though.
So this data seems to be connected to calls for service. Was there any summons just because of patrol? So they're driving by and they see it or hear it themselves and stop and ticket? Because I had complaints that cops would just keep driving and they would drive right by and see it and not stop. So I just wondered about that, if that was the case.
Yes and no, and the people that watch those police officers don't know the call that they're driving to.
They were driving slowly, so they were patrolling.
Right, but
That's- yeah.
my
And
thing
you're
is,
right.
we don't know where they're going to or what they're doing. Are they empowered to do that? Yes. What they were doing in that particular moment, I couldn't tell you that. I can tell you that I was on the east side of the park, and the minute that our fireworks ended, our neighbors right to the east decided to have equally as awesome a show. And I got on the radio and immediately told officers to go too. So does it happen? Yes. Did they have the abilities to do it? Yes. But I can tell you the volume of calls for service that were far more of a priority than fireworks complaints were pretty great that night. And so if it appeared that they were ignoring that stuff, I can tell you that that was not the message that was given, and I don't believe that that's what happened.
That's right. No, thank you for that. Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
First of all, it's hard. It's like playing whack-a-mole. So I really do appreciate all the extraordinary effort, especially before going back into 10-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So my first question is, I see that this goes all the way up till July 4th. And I know people shoot their residuals off after July 4th. Is there any value for continuing this a couple of days after the 4th of July?
The fireworks enforcement teams?
Yes. Or maybe this is just an artifact of deciding to collect all the way until the 4th. There is data.
No, there's certainly a staffing, all the folks on all the fireworks enforcement teams were on overtime all weekend. The entire police department worked. The 4th, there comes a point where I have to say uncle to my staff. Now, the message is, it's not just the 4th of July weekend. We know it's starting, whatever, June 15th-ish, right? And we know that it's going to far after the 4th. The zero tolerance in the handling of them, as you can see, that there's fireworks tickets written prior to the 4th and prior to the fireworks enforcement teams as they come in and as they get to them. It's just that, it's a prioritization of calls and, you know, getting there the best that we can.
Okay, understand. And my second question is, I'm going to call it the citation to call for service ratio, the hit rate, I guess, if you will. Any way to benchmark that with regional or national statistics to kind of figure out how are we doing in terms of eventually catching perpetrators and citing them?
I certainly tried by pulling, you know, the data from our neighboring agencies to see, but they have to be willing to share the data. So,
Gotcha.
Do I believe that eventually that we can get to all of that stuff? I certainly think that the issues that AdCom had, AdCom immediately knows that we're going to be asking for the data, so I received that right after the 4th. They already started to compile that stuff for us. But they were very open and honest in the difficulties that they've had because they're also trying to rebuild their own structure. So,
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Councilmember Brown?
First of all, I'd like to say that I left town that weekend. I did watch several cities fireworks from the top of my trailer, but when I'm looking at the report, is there any way to split it out by ward? Because that's what people really want. They want to know how many tickets were issued in Ward 2, how many were issued in Ward 1. Because we're going to hear, or I'm going to tell you what I've heard, there were no citations issued. Look, here comes Chief. There were no citations issued, and I've been around the block long enough to know that that's not the case.
Well, one challenge that we have when we do our districts are totally different than what the wards are. And then the wards have been changed over the years too to what that captures. So it would be a huge ordeal, but maybe when the new wards in the future, because we're gonna have to go through
10
some,
years.
our districts because of Carl's Farm and everything else to make sure that we have enough officers in those areas with the amount of calls for there. So we'd have to pull all of them by hand it's only 12, right? But still doing that, the hand, but for the calls for service and everything else, we can estimate on where that comes in and the calls, but that's a
Definitely
challenging point.
respect your honesty. And no, I don't think it's that big of a deal to add extra work onto any, I was just kind of curious.
And then, like Commander Rice said, during this time, that's when our dispatch center was hacked. So a lot of that stuff, trying to rebuild those systems. Luckily, we were up and running on our side sooner than they were able to rebuild their system. So some of that data I assume some of the data that Westminster or Thornton didn't provide for how many tickets they've written. But in years past, we've always crushed them on the amount of tickets that we do compared to what they do. So, and I think it's probably the same as this year because I'm a little competitive when it comes to that.
I think Commerce
Well, it's only
City, if I
12.
recall
It's not-
correctly, Commerce City has adopted an ordinance with a similar fine structure, either this past year or more recent than that. So we could check with Commerce City and see if they did any targeted enforcement like we did. Thornton has had their ordinance in place for several years. We modeled our ordinance and increased our minimum fine structure as a result of what we learned from their experience. And so really, within our immediate area, those two jurisdictions, I think, are the ones best to look to in terms of our ordinance. Corey, if you have any comments.
Councilmember Walker?
Thank you. Miss Heather, while we were on tour of the recreation center last week, we found some old signage, including some old fireworks signage. And Mr. Cano, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the fine was $26.50?
$25.60.
$25.60. So I'm just curious, and forgive my ignorance on this, why did we go down?
It's a
And
maximum.
Yeah, I think I can answer that.
Okay.
The $2,650 is the maximum fine for any municipal offense that is criminal in nature, non-civil. What the city ordinance did was put mandatory minimums in place because the $2,650 is a maximum. There is no minimum. And so this was intended to make sure that for fireworks. But that's my point. Prior to the ordinance, there was no minimum. And so this was an assurance, this was a direction by council that there be a mandatory minimum.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry if I missed this, but just for clarity, in the chart here, July 3rd is missing? That's the date of the hack?
No, that was Monday, so we did Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the 4th was on a Tuesday. So we didn't do it on the Monday because I had all of the staff coming in and we had all
I
of the, right, you also have to remember, this is the first time in the history of the PD that we were on 12-hour shifts trying to do this too. And the next day, the festival was the priority. The public safety, that was our biggest priority. And so running it all night and then trying to bring people out,
Yeah.
that's why, that's what the gap is.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So 226 calls and only 98 were fireworks. So over 50%, 56% were other calls. Is that, I'm just going to take a guess, maybe like alcohol related or calls of that nature? Because that's a huge amount
Yes, ma'am, it
that
is.
takes away from that fireworks enforcement.
A lot of disturbances, right, because these alcohol-related, domestic, I think the weather with the flooding and then you start putting people in cars. We had accidents. I know we had some more serious crime that happened shortly after that ties up. We took some folks into custody. So I guess I could say this, right? So the chief barbecues all day for everybody, and at 6, our graveyard guys came on, and the whole goal was they were gonna have barbecues and eat. They were gonna have their own dinner at night, and that never happened. So, and I'm not saying that to feel bad, but busy is an understatement. They did the best that they could with being out there, and the fact that they forego dinner to try to just keep pushing through the calls for service. We understand, right, we all live in neighborhoods too, right, the folks that are not abiding by the law and keeping everybody up all night. We understand the nuisance piece too, but the guys on the road have to make decisions about the prioritization of stuff, and accidents where people are hurt, disturbance where people are assaulting each other. It's going to take priority, and it did, you know.
Well, thank you, and thank you to all the officers, because I spoke to a few of them who would have had maybe some time off or vacation time, and they were working.
Correct.
So I think that's important for us to keep that in mind, especially when looking at the amount of overtime. And I know this is a data-driven police force, so I'm assuming you guys will probably look at that data, where the majority of those calls are, and try to figure out staffing around that. But I'm a little concerned at looking at how many officers were working and how many hours of overtime, and understanding that, you just cannot predict the amount of service calls. And I will say to Councilmember Brown's point, per ward, like, I live by the open space, and there's no way any of you are going to catch those folks that are, shooting off fireworks in the open space by the time you get there, because it's so remote. It's kind of hard to catch, so. But I guess it is worth maybe if we can get that data somehow. I'll just leave it at hope to hear from you all how we can help. I don't know. I just don't know. Looking at that amount of overtime, what can be done? But thank you for everything you do.
You're welcome. And the folks know the 4th, it's the festival. The public safety piece is a really huge deal to us, and spending the time and the resources on that. And that eats up a lot of bodies to make sure that we're keeping that many civilians safe throughout the day on the 4th.
We appreciate it.
That's a big piece.
One of the main reasons too on that overtime, bringing everybody in, is that if something happens, if something bad happens, it's just us, right? Thornton, Westminster, all the surrounding agencies have their own events and resources are tied up. So a lot of times when we allocate that many resources to our event is that we have to count on just us being there until we can have enough resource in there, and then maybe we can pull some resources from some of the other surrounding jurisdictions.
Yeah, it's not the overtime, it's the manpower that concerns me, and make sure, you all are okay.
Well,
Thank you.
To go off of the chief's point, a perfect example is once Thornton lost essentially half their city, or the power grid went down, they immediately pulled their resources because they have to manage their own. So we know that day we're in it by ourselves for the most part. Where on an average night like tonight, we would have resources from the surrounding jurisdictions because they don't have mass gatherings in their own city. And on the 4th, you have that. So do the best we can.
Eye-opening. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was also wondering about July 3rd, looking at the chart. And then I'm looking at the education section of the memo. So it's talking about all the ways that we're trying to inform our residents. And then it says residents indicated they had received tickets, with one resident stating they received a ticket, would pay the fine, and will continue to use fireworks next year despite these measures. So I think that's important to add, but what the piece that's missing is the frustration from residents that they really don't feel like we enforce this. So there's a lot of noise, either directly to us or directly to the city or all over social media, that we have something in place that we're not enforcing. And the noise, while I completely agree with you, is not the same as speeding, right? Speeding is more of a safety issue. But the noise is the same, and it resonates in the same level of, why have laws if you're not going to enforce them? Why have rules about fireworks if you're not going to enforce them? So I do think it begs the question and possibly even a discussion, because while it is my most frustrating thing in July, I don't know if it's just because I live in Fox Run, but it is a terrible place on the 4th of July. But the amount of manpower, the amount of focus, is it pulling from keeping our city safe? Like, I'm just wondering if it begs the question, because we started this work and then year after year, we have the same exact conversation. We did our best. And I get it, and your best is awesome. I'm not discounting that at all. But here's the data, we did our best. We still have angry, frustrated residents. There has to be another way that we can communicate it. And what you just said was spot on, as far as we have to prioritize the safety of our residents. Then we need to communicate that differently. Because when I look at the education, we're telling them, hey, we have this ordinance, this is not okay, you want to not shoot them off. I don't know that we're educating the residents about the right things. Because I think they need to hear, there's probably 4 people watching right now, but they need to hear what you just said, which is, we're all out there and public safety comes first. So I don't know if that's a council conversation that we should continue having, or it's just, this is all really valid, and I feel like we're frustrating you because we have this ordinance, and we're frustrated because the residents are mad, and I just don't, it's another one that I feel like we're in a pickle.
Yeah.
Well, I think, if I may, Mayor,
Yes.
I didn't mean to cut anybody off if somebody was gonna.
No, it's okay, I didn't call on him yet. You get to go first.
I think we're at a point, having worked the ordinance, so to speak, in terms of how many years into it from council adoption of the ordinance to reevaluate what problem are we trying to solve. And that's not, I'm not dismissing when I ask the question that way, I'm not dismissing the impact on residents, because I am a resident, I am impacted like everybody else on the dais and watching, as well as my dog. 4th of July night is the most miserable night of the year for me and my dog. So what problem are we trying to solve, and what can we realistically do? I think the work of the police department has been tremendous under the circumstances and constraints that they've been working under. But to your point and to others' comments, it's not enough to our residents. So how do we reconcile that if we can? And if we can't, where's the bar? I mean, that's something, you know, we can change the way we're educating and pushing out information. I'm pretty confident that we have, I know in the venues that I've been in, talked about the prioritization of calls. But when you're in your home hearing the fireworks, it doesn't take away the impact. I mean, I get it as a resident myself and having talked one-on-one with residents who have expressed concern. So I think it's worth a conversation and more of a policy level of what are we trying to accomplish and what's realistic. Even when we are fully staffed, the 4th of July event will remain that staff intensive in order to prioritize the safety of participants. So if you want us to go back and take a look at, you know, what could this look like the next couple, 3 years ahead, we'll pull our heads together and try to figure it out. I think it's worth a conversation at this point.
Well, and I think the communication around just saying we have to prioritize calls does not give residents specifics, right? You just shared specifics. We're doing car accidents, we're doing, you know, significant disputes, not
Right.
just my neighbor yelled at me, right? Significant things. And so I think we have to be super specific about what that means so that residents have a deeper understanding.
We can be, I mean, also need to be careful not to, dare I say, scare people. But, I mean, there's a component of that. I mean, we'll leave it to you two to.
Yeah, I don't know. Councilmember Kondo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So while Commander Rice was talking, I kind of had a brainstorm. I mean, some cities don't do 4th of July on the 4th of July. They might do it on the Saturday in proximity to 4th of July, and I wonder if maybe that might be a potential out-of-the-box thinking where we can stagger it and do it in such a way that other cities, they may continue to do it on the 4th of July, but if we did it on the 2nd of July, at least we have that capability of having mutual assistance if something happened, or vice versa, if something happened to Thornton or Westminster. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting this, something different. So I'm just saying, in the spirit of trying to think out of the box, maybe we ought to think about scheduling our 4th of July festival.
I'm going to let you ask the residents.
Yeah, you do that. You're more than welcome to do.
Yeah, they're going to have
They
some
yell.
words for you,
Okay.
but I think we should ask.
I mean, I've seen it, at least on
think
the
it's a-
military bases, they do it on the weekend.
I think it's a valid question.
It is.
Our only problem is that for me and the rest of us, when we didn't have our fireworks show because of the rainstorm and the electrical problems and all of that, they're still throwing that up in our face like it was ours.
Yeah, but what I'm suggesting is do it on a Saturday of, you know, proximity to the 4th. I mean, let's face it, people are going to be off on that weekend anyway. Most people take 4 or 5 day weekends around the 4th of July holiday. So, I don't know. Again,
Out of the box thinking, why not?
I'm just trying to provide an idea for us to kick around here. And I'm more than happy to go talk to residents about it.
Good.
Actually, I guess I will be doing
Well,
that this fall, so.
For your campaign, right?
Oh,
Yes,
boy.
4th of July on the Saturday. Always.
Oh,
I can't do
Your
that.
campaign
Actually, I'm probably violating a law right now.
We
so
need you to get
stop.
reelected. You can't do that. Don't mention fireworks.
Okay. So,
Just
back
don't go
to
there.
the,
Okay, don't go there.
Back to
We
the
need
thing.
you.
So I guess my question, so thank you, number one, for the presentation. Does council support looking into this again? Yes. Taking a look at the ordinance and taking a look at how it impacts our team and,
Well, even the
Yeah.
scheduling is a.
okay. Looking, it's on a Thursday. I don't know how you're gonna back it all the way up to the Saturday before.
Oh, you move it to the Friday or the
Oh,
Saturday.
4th of July
If it- if
after
4th of
the
July was
4th?
on.
Oh, goodness. I think you're creating.
We're not laughing at you, we're laughing with you.
Literal.
Councilmember Brown, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
During
That is
COVID, my neighborhood was a war.
I really love, that really is
boy.
pulling at my heartstrings right now.
Mayor, can I clarify?
Yeah, I just have a question. Councilmember Goff.
So I think, actually, I'm not instantaneously opposed to Councilmember Condo's suggestion, like I hear from some people, because it's like, no matter what we do, people are unhappy. They wanted us to do something about fireworks, we did something, now they don't think we're enforcing it enough, so they're unhappy about that. It just doesn't seem like there's gonna be any way to get a certain percentage of people to stop shooting off personal. So if we did our celebration with fireworks on a different day, then there would be more police officers available on the 4th. Am I understanding that possibility? So, I mean, I think we should at least consider it. So I am for bringing this forward for some kind of discussion at some future time.
So my question, and maybe this is Heather's clarity question, because, so my wondering if we should talk about it is more talking about the ordinance and its enforcement impact on the police department. I'm not wanting to open a discussion about moving the 4th of July. I just don't think that's a good idea. Only because, say we move our fireworks to the 2nd, or the 3rd, or the 6th, or the 29th, based on the calendar, the fireworks in homes, in neighborhoods on the 4th is gonna be just like it was when we canceled them.
2 nights.
Unintended consequences.
It'll be so much worse, and I don't know that that's the discussion I wanna have right now. So can we talk about this in two pieces? So, opening a discussion around the ordinance and the enforcement and the impact on our police department. I think I heard yes, or interested in looking at that again. Maybe?
Yes.
Becky was a yes. You're a maybe? Okay.
Get it?
Um,
Support my.
Yeah, that's the next one. I'm ready. So did that help you?
That's the clarification I was looking for. One thing I do need to inform council about, though, is staff's gonna start getting started
Yeah.
working on 4th of July for next year before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I'm
Okay.
gonna focus on bringing back a study session item on the ordinance and impact on the PD,
That would be
not
good.
on moving.
Well, so do people want to, I personally do not want to move the 4th. So if other people do you want to have that discussion? So Rich, anybody else? I'm guessing Becky was.
Well, I think there should be some way we ask residents whether we're going to commit to making a change next year or not.
Put it on the ballot.
I guess I would like.
Shoot, if I'm not sitting in this chair, then you'll know the answer.
Data behind
This is
it
the
from like
joke.
PD, like would it be helpful? to
I'm
have?
sorry?
Would something like moving it, if we had ours on a different date than Westy and Thornton, like would that actually be helpful to y'all or no?
My concern is then we have 2 nights of
Yeah,
100
okay.
plus people coming in enforcement, right? So we have a large group working our fireworks show or whatever date that is. But then 4th of July, we'll still have to bring out extra teams and everything else to make sure that we're doing that fireworks enforcement. So I don't see really a break there.
Well, and really quickly, and you can put a feeler out there, maybe. The reason I would say no is if you think about everything that our fireworks event does, it starts very early in the morning. The car show classic car show is a tradition. Families start setting up at 8 or 9 in the morning, and they've got their, tents and chairs and their families barbecuing and playing volleyball, and that can't happen on the 2nd if they're at work, right? That can't happen on the 3rd if they're at work. But the 4th is a national holiday, and
Right. But
more
what I was
people-
proposing was the weekend that's in proximity to July. So it would
I'm
be a
just-
Saturday or Sunday.
I'm just pointing out that this year, it's kind of in a weird juxtaposition.
People work on the
The
weekend.
4th is a Thursday. So I don't know what that means for people's personal schedule. And
The fourth-
maybe it's
This year was a Tuesday.
I just looked, it's a leap year,
It's a
that's
leap
why.
year.
Oh, you're looking at 2020.
I-
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know, I think maybe it's an idea for the future. And so maybe you could do some informal data collection and check with people and see what they.
Sure.
Um,
Do that when I'm knocking on doors.
Yeah, and I do know that we do have servicemen and women that really like to celebrate on 4th. And maybe we can, if you do a sampling test, tell us what you get.
I'll report back.
Yeah. I'm happy to ask the same question. Maybe.
We could do it together.
They might, yeah, we could. They might get mad at us. Together. Okay. So I think, thank you. All of that was a lot for you and not what you asked for, but thank you for the information. Thank you for the presentation. Heather, you have direction on where we're going to
Yep,
head next.
we have direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Thanks, DC. Okay. Public invited to be heard again, and there's no one here. Is anyone on the phone who would like to speak to council at this time? Nope. Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Section 4.5D of the City of North Glen Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice regarding 112th Avenue.
Motion to approve moving to executive session.
Second.
Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Sorry. Light thought that went through my mind.
I will close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
We will adjourn to the executive session. So everyone can take a break while Brandon unpacks.